Chapter 39, I'm the Boss, 3. $3,000 a month. Wang Xian wanted to laugh when he saw Director Zhou pretending to be a kind senior, offering advice to a junior. On seeing the yearning in Director Zhou's eyes, Wang Xian finally understood his intentions. Director Zhou wanted to woo Guan Shuqing and regarded him as a potential rival. He must step on his rival when he met one. But he could not do it directly to avoid leaving a negative impression with Guan Shuqing. Hence, he could only give a tall hat to himself and lower the status of Wang Xian indirectly. Be a follower of his? Become his employee? Wang Xian smiled and shook his head gently. Director Zhou, the students in our school are not that materialistic. We can get a bag at a few $100s and date at the school canteen. Upon hearing Wang Xian's words, Director Zhou had a change in his expression. He did not expect Wang Xian to be sarcastic about him being materialistic. Director Zhou's eyes glimmered with displeasure. Xiao Wang, you can't put it that way. Campus love is pure and innocent, but you'll leave school and enter society after all. Director Zhou said all this for your own good. Don't take his words for granted, a young man said and frowned at Wang Xian when he saw the expression on Director Zhou's face. That's right. What can you do when you don't have any money? Girls are all looking for rich husbands who dote on them and love them. Too bad I'm married. Otherwise, I'd woo Director Zhou instead. A girl also glanced at Wang Xian. Xiao Wang, you're still young. They had been working in the society for many years, and they could sense something from their boss's expressions. They could tell that Director Zhou wanted to shame him. Naturally, they needed to give him a hand. A hint of sarcasm flashed in Wang Xian's eyes when he heard their remarks. We're still schooling, and we don't have many troubling matters. We just need to pursue what we want, and that will do. Guan Shuqing spoke with a smile when she felt something was amiss with the atmosphere. Shuqing, you are still young. Listen to me. I'll nag at you in the future, said a girl to Guan Shuqing. She was pleased to see the kindness in Director Zhou's eyes as soon as she finished her sentence. Waitress. At this time, Director Zhou got an idea and called for the waitress at the door. Sir, how may I help you? Asked the waitress who walked over. Do you still have that limited caviar? Asked Director Zhou to the waitress. I'll need to check with the kitchen, the waitress answered with a smile. Okay, please check for me. Director Zhou nodded unconcernedly. Subsequently, he told everyone, truffle, foie gras, and caviar are the three most renowned overseas dishes. Caviar, in particular, is extremely precious. The caviar sold in first-grade restaurant is limited edition and costs $4,000 per portion. Just enough for 1 or 2 people to share. The taste is superb. I'll see how many portions are available. We can order more, subject to availability. Director Zhou, you're way too generous. The caviar is just too expensive. That's right, Director Zhou. These dishes are enough. Why don't you order for Shuqing? You don't have to waste your money on us, said several sensible youngsters. We will see how many portions are available. Director Zhou was satisfied with them after hearing them. I'm sorry, sir, but our caviar is all out today. Soon, the waitress walked over and apologized. Sold out? Oh, is Manager Huang around? Asked Director Zhou with a frown. Yes, sir, do you have any requests? Asked the waitress quickly. Nothing, I'll give him a call. Director Zhou gestured at the waitress and fished for his phone. Director Zhou, do you know the manager from the first-grade restaurant? Asked a young man with surprise. We met each other over a couple of meals, Director Zhou said without any emotion, but his eyes glimmered with arrogance. I still know some people from during the few years after returning from overseas. Director Zhou, you really befriend many people from all walks of life. That would give you the convenience to do anything. A young man at the side was licking his boots. Network is essential in society today, said Director Zhou smilingly as the phone on the opposite side rang. Hello, Director Zhou, how are you? a middle-aged man's voice was heard on the phone. "Manager Huang, are you busy?" asked Director Zhou with a smile. "Not really, is there anything I can help you with, Director Zhou? How was your dinner today?" "I'm quite pleased with it. I'm calling you with regards to this too. Manager Huang, do you think you can get some caviar for us? Your staff said it is out of stock, but I have a craving for it. Do you think you can get some for me to host my guests?" Sure, the kitchen should have set some aside. There should be some left." "Great, sorry to trouble you, Manager Huang." Director Zhou deepened his smile as he hung up after making a few courtesy remarks. "Well, the first-grade restaurant will set aside some every day just in case. There are some left." Director Zhou chuckled. He cast his gaze at Guan Shuqing. "Give it a try later, Shuqing. The taste is great." "Director Zhou, thank you for your treat. It must be expensive for this meal," Guan Shuqing said with a smile. "It didn't cost that much. Perhaps less than $10,000. Director Zhou shook his head. "So long as you enjoy the meal today. By the way, where did you and your friend plan to have your dinner at just now?" "We were planning to cook outdoors at school," Guan Shuqing said with a smile. "Outdoor cooking?" Director Zhou paused and raised his eyebrows. "Such a hot day and you're going for outdoor cooking? There are many mosquitoes outside." "Xiao Wang, you're not being understanding. Besides, it is not good for their skin if girls are smoked by the barbecue. If you're treating a girl to dinner, you must at least go for a decent restaurant." "What kind of restaurant?" Wang Xian noticed that Director Zhou was looking back at him, so he took a sip of water and asked impassively. "The first-grade restaurant may be expensive for you since you are a student. But you should at least go to a franchise restaurant for a meal that is around $200 to $300. Outdoor cooking is inappropriate." Director Zhou looked at Guan Shuqing as he spoke. "Besides, outdoor cooking is not safe." "Shuqing, you better not go." "Heh." Upon hearing his remarks, Wang Xian sneered at him. Director Zhou showed displeasure in his eyes when he heard the scornful laughter. "Director Zhou, let's dig in. It's getting late." Seeing that Wang Xian was unhappy, Guan Shuqing quickly tugged at his arm under the table. While doing so, her palm was caught in his palm nicely. A current seemed to run in her body, and she withdrew it immediately. Wang Xian peered at Guan Shuqing and chuckled. He did not persist further and laughed. "Have some food. The seafood in the first-grade restaurant is the best." "Oh, then have more food. You might not have any chance for it in the future," Director Zhou jeered. "Yes, thanks to Director Zhou for the treat today." Wang Xian drew his lips slightly and nodded. He picked up his chopsticks and continued with his food. Guan Shuqing was relieved when he saw Wang Xian enjoying his food. She hesitated and picked a piece of crab claw. With a smile, she said, "Try this. This is delicious." "Sure." Wang Xian looked at her and nodded. "Really? I'm afraid you might not have the chance to try it again after this," a young man muttered when he saw Wang Xian's look. The voice was soft, but it was audible. However, Wang Xian was not bothered at all. He did not want to quibble with him since they were all Guan Shuqing's colleagues. At the same time, Manager Huang hung up Director Li's phone call and spoke to Director Li, who was clearing up his stuff at the side. By the way, Director Li heard him and said, "Turn that customer down. After that, go to the kitchen, get the additional caviar, and follow me to that private room. We're delivering to someone else." "Her? Director Li, who are you giving it to?" Manager Huang was slightly stunned as he asked in surprise. "Your future boss." Director Li looked at him and said, "The first-grade restaurant will belong to this person from tomorrow onwards. You should get to know him first today." "My future boss?" Manager Huang was surprised. He knew that Director Li had a deal with this person for taking over the first-grade restaurant. But he did not expect that his future boss would be having dinner here today. "Okay, Director Li, I'll explain it to the customer." Manager Huang quickly nodded and walked to the kitchen. He would be asking the chef to prepare it with utmost effort. After all, this was prepared for their future boss. Chapter 40, Taking Over the First Grade Restaurant, 1. The atmosphere was a little heavy within the private lounge of the first grade restaurant. Guan Shuqing felt a little awkward while sitting there and eating. At this point, she could already sense the animosity Director Zhou and the surrounding colleagues had towards Wang Xian. He could also sense that Director Zhou had other thoughts about her. This made her unable to help feeling remorseful for not rejecting the invitation to today's gathering. Bzz. At this moment, Director Zhou's phone rang. He took out his phone and looked at it. It's a phone call from the manager here. It should be about sending the food over. He smiled and accepted the call after explaining. What? No more. Not a single bit is left? When Director Zhou received the call, he asked in shock. I'm really sorry, Director Zhou. We don't have any caviar left in first-grade seafood restaurant as they have been ordered by some distinguished customer, Manager Huang explained over the phone. I will definitely reserve a serving for Director Zhou for your next visit. Forget it then. If it's sold out, so be it. Director Zhou shook his head slightly and hung up the phone. We probably won't get the chance this time. Manager Huang said that all the caviar has sold out. He shrugged his shoulders and said to Guan Shuqing, this time we didn't get it, next time I'll bring you along to get some. Guan Shuqing smiled and didn't reply as she didn't know how to. Bzz. At this moment, Wang Xian's phone also rang. He took out his phone and saw a phone call from Director Li. He accepted it immediately. Brother Wang Xian, which private lounge number are you in? 203, is there anything Director Li has for me? Oh, nothing. I'll just come and disturb you for a moment. Just as Director Li finished his sentence, someone knocked on the door of the private lounge. Following which, the waitress opened the door. Sorry for the interruption, Brother Wang Xian. I'm here to serve you a specialty delicacy of our restaurant. Director Li stood at the entrance of the door as he smiled and spoke to Wang Xian. Behind him was Manager Huang with the plates in his hand. As they walked in, Manager Huang looked towards Wang Xian and put on a radiant smile. Director Wang, this is the specialty caviar of our restaurant. There are 5 servings in the kitchen and I have brought all of them here for you and your guests. Director Wang, you can call me Xiao Huang. I'm the manager of first-grade seafood restaurant currently. The middle-aged Manager Huang kept a very low profile. He carried the plates and placed the servings of caviar on the table in front of Wang Xian. Wang Xian was slightly shocked but quickly smiled and nodded his head. He looked at Director Li and said, Thank you for your kind intentions, Director Li. Please enjoy yourself, Brother Wang Xian. I shall not be interrupting you any further. Director Li smiled at him. Thank you. Wang Xian nodded his head. Director Wang, please enjoy yourself. Feel free to ask for me if there's anything. Manager Huang bowed down. From the very beginning to the end, he didn't look at others and had his attention fixed on Wang Xian. Even as he left, he lowered his stance before turning around and walking out of the room. Director Zhou was dumbfounded and his eyes were opened widely. Just as he was about to say something, he noted that Manager Huang had not even looked over at all during the whole process. Suddenly, he felt a little embarrassed. As for the other young men and women, they were also shocked by what they had just seen. What's the situation? Who were those 2 people previously? That guy who served the caviar said that he is the manager of this place and Wang Xian could just call him Xiao Huang. Is he the same Manager Huang that Director Zhou had mentioned? They quickly turned their heads over and looked at Wang Xian. They saw 5 bowls of caviar beside him with each serving costing $4,000 and a total of $20,000. Moreover, this was something that even money might not be able to get. Even their Director Zhou had failed to order any despite giving Manager Huang a call. Yet, the manager sent over 5 bowls with profound reverence. This How can this be possible? Isn't he just a student? Guan Shuqing, who was just beside Wang Xian, also looked at him with astonishment. She noticed that she had more and more things that she couldn't understand about him. He was a poor student that had to work part-time frequently to earn his school fees and living expenses in the past. Currently, he rode a heavy-duty motorcycle and the clothes he wore weren't cheap either. However, this wasn't the most surprising thing to her. What really shocked her was the manager's attitude previously and the free food that was worth $20,000. Wang Xian. You, Guan Shuqing looked at Wang Xian and had a huge basket of questions to ask him. However, she did not know where to start asking. Let's eat. Let's see how the limited caviar of first-grade seafood restaurant will taste. Wang Xian smiled and passed over a bowl to her. Wang Xian. This. Why would the manager of this place bring these over? Guan Shuqing looked at the caviar Wang Xian placed in front of her and asked blankly. I bought this place. Wang Xian looked at her and continued, Director Li, who came in previously, is the previous owner of first-grade seafood restaurant. We have reached a preliminary agreement and I'll be the boss of first-grade seafood restaurant at this time tomorrow. Therefore. Wang Xian smiled. As for Guan Shuqing, she was staring at Wang Xian with her eyes opened widely and filled with surprise. First-grade seafood restaurant. You bought it? She asked again in disbelief. Yeah. Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. If you have something you would like to eat in the future, you can look for me. I'll just treat you to it. This, Guan Shuqing was a little dumbfounded. How can this be possible? At this point, a young man sitting by the side couldn't contain his surprise and showed his disbelief. This student sitting right here bought first-grade seafood restaurant. This is first-grade seafood restaurant. How much will he need? $10 million or $20 million? This is first-grade seafood restaurant. How can anyone buy this place with just $10 million? The other young men and women around also showed their disbelief. They recalled what they had said to him previously, I'm afraid you might not have the chance to try it again after this. Thinking back now, they felt a surge of heat over their face. This was a tight slap to their faces. Not only could he try it again, he even bought the whole restaurant. Their attention turned slowly to Director Zhou as they realized that Director Zhou's expression was even more dramatic. His face was twitching constantly and his body was trembling slightly as he looked to Wang Xian. Playing a sucker and acting poor? What an obnoxious person. Director Zhou stared at Wang Xian and had various phrases surfacing in his mind. He gritted his teeth tightly. To be able to buy first-grade seafood restaurant, he definitely had several dozens of millions in assets. As for his family, they only had $50 to $60 million in assets. Moreover, these were all under his father. Wang Xian glanced faintly at Director Zhou before saying directly to Guan Shuqing, I'll be taking over this place tomorrow. I wouldn't make changes to the manpower of this place but I might need a reliable person to manage the accounts of this place. I couldn't possibly be cooping myself up in this place. Will you come and help me out? When Guan Shuqing heard his words, her eyes flickered. She glanced at Director Zhou beside her and remarked, but I've already. However, when she looked at Wang Xian once again, she still nodded her head in hesitation. Alright, since you have asked, how could I reject your invitation? Great. With you helping me out, I'll be saving myself a lot of trouble. Wang Xian smiled. As for Director Zhou, who was just beside her, his eyebrows twitched violently and he clenched his fist tightly upon seeing Guan Shuqing being poached away right in front of him. However, he couldn't just flare up. This young man in front of him was able to buy first-grade seafood restaurant directly. He might have a strong backing. Damn his answer of having only a sister. Who is he trying to fool? At the same time, it's to show deference to someone more senior or with more authority. Chapter 41, Taking Over the First-Grade Restaurant, 2. I guess you really made Director Zhou enraged tonight. You saw it too. He was the one who started it. If it weren't for you, I would have asked them to get lost. The last thing you said was simply. I'm speechless. Wang Xian and Guan Shuqing walked out from the first-grade restaurant exchanging words happily on the old street. The gathering was not over yet. But when Wang Xian handed the leftover caviar to Director Zhou just now, he smiled and said, Director Zhou, this is the caviar that you asked for. Try it. Welcome to my restaurant in the future. Oh, this restaurant is not mine yet. So, you've still got to pay for tonight's dinner. After he finished his sentence, Wang Xian called Guan Shuqing out. At that time, Director Zhou's face was looking extremely sulky. I need to apologize to you for offending your superior. Looks like you won't be getting your 2-day wages. I'll compensate you for that. Wang Xian said with a smile. Of course, you have to compensate me. Guan Shuqing chuckled and looked over her shoulder at Wang Xian as she felt her heart warming. This was the first guy who made her happy, comfortable, and heartwarming. The feeling was not immense, but she was addicted to it. Hop on. Wang Xian rode his Harley motorcycle over and called out to Guan Shuqing. Okay. Guan Shuqing felt her heart thumping as she looked at him on the bike. She got on the bike. With some hesitation, she held out her arms and wrapped them around Wang Xian. Sensing a warm body closing up on him, Wang Xian's body stiffened up. Subsequently, he revealed a smiling face. Sit tight, we're leaving. He stepped on the accelerator and headed back to school. Soon, they arrived back at the female dormitory. See you tomorrow. I'll pick you up over here. Wang Xian waved to Guan Shuqing. Okay. Guan Shuqing nodded and waved back to him. Happily, she skipped her way back to her room. Wang Xian chuckled and drove back to the male dormitory. During that night, Wang Xian did not do any cultivating. Instead, he slept soundly. When he woke up the next day, it was past 8 a.m. Wang Xian got up quickly and freshened up. When he picked up his phone, he saw an unread message. Lan Qingyue again. Wang Xian was taken by surprise when he saw the WeChat message. It was Lan Qingyue again. The same thing, she wanted to buy him dinner in appreciation for the previous incident. The message was sent out 5 minutes ago. I'm sorry, Chairman Lan. I've been busy lately, and I really don't have time. Wang Xian declined politely. Today, he was going to take over the first-grade restaurant. In the next few days, he would be too busy for anything. He needed to handle the internal issues of first-grade restaurant and its management issues. The Longxian restaurant is going to open soon beside the restaurant, and it was an outright act to steal business from him. After hearing the conversation between Director Li and that young man yesterday, Wang Xian knew that the other party had some capacity. Hence, he needed to prepare himself for it. After Wang Xian sent out the message, he packed up and brought the lobsters and swimming crabs downstairs. Within a room in a villa, the entire place was loaded with pink color. All the men in the river town would not have imagined that the renowned ice queen, Chairman Lan Qingyue, would paint her room with such a girly color. Someone once said that every aloof girl fantasizes about fairy tales. Lan Qingyue lay with her stomach on the bed with a big-sized, pink teddy bear beside her. Ding! When her phone rang, she quickly opened her WeChat. Rejected. He rejected me again. Lan Qingyue was a little lost. Yesterday, she guessed that he might really have something going on, and that was why he turned her down. Hence, she asked him again early in the morning, but little did she expect that she was being rejected again. On top of that, he replied that he would be busy lately. Does he dislike me, so he doesn't want to see me? Or is he really that busy? Lan Qingyue frowned and got up from the bed immediately to stare at herself in the mirror. Despite the fact that she just woke up without any makeup, her refined profile and her perfect figure were extremely seductive. Is my charm not attractive to him at all? For the first time, Lan Qingyue doubted her own charm. Let's have breakfast. I want to eat steamed dumplings. After fetching Guan Shuqing on his bike, together with Wang Xian, they headed towards the old street. Sure, whatever the beautiful lady wants. What a glib tongue you got. If I wanted to eat your meat, would you cut yourself for me? You are not that cruel. I'm not the Tripitaka from Journey to the West. But I'm the wicked female monster. Ha! As they cracked jokes, Wang Xian and Guan Shuqing reached a steamed dumpling shop. After breakfast, it was time to meet Director Li. When they reached first-grade restaurant, the door was already opened. Director Li and Manager Huang were already here. Director Wang. Upon seeing his arrival, Manager Huang went up to him immediately and greeted him with a beam on his face. Good morning, Manager Huang. Wang Xian nodded and looked at Director Li, who was standing at the side. The property deed and the deed of ownership transfer are ready. Apart from the past profits, everything in the restaurant belongs to you. We will be busy for the entire morning since we are going to the Property Management Bureau for the transfers of the property and other stuff. Director Li smiled when he saw Wang Xian. Great, let me see the contract first. Wang Xian nodded. Here, I'm sure there's nothing wrong with the contract. Director Li handed the contract to him. Wang Xian took it and studied it carefully before he casually nodded his head. Next, they took Director Li's car to the Property Management Bureau, State Administration for Industry and Commerce, some departments in the bank to expedite the transfer procedures, including business licenses, and so on. After running around for the entire morning, Wang Xian transferred the balance amount to Director Li's account. Both of them shook hands, and the deal was sealed. Boss, Director Li did not take anything with him when he left. Everything is operating as usual for now. I'll take you over to meet the rest of the staff. After coming back from the bank, Manager Huang, who had been following around the entire morning, spoke to Wang Xian with enthusiasm. Sure, let's get to know the restaurant. Also, all the staff positions will remain as they are now. Wang Xian nodded. It was lunchtime when they reached the restaurant. Wang Xian called for Manager Huang and Guan Shuqing to have lunch at the first-grade restaurant. Manager Huang knew Guan Shuqing too. She had worked as a greeter for more than half a month. When they met again, Manager Huang guessed she could be the lady boss in the future. Hence, he was proactive to serve Guan Shuqing. As such, Guan Shuqing felt lost when her previous manager fawned upon her in such a way. All these were because of the guy beside her. After lunch, Wang Xian toured the entire restaurant. Looking at the first-grade restaurant, he felt a sense of achievement. This was his restaurant, and he would definitely make a name for this restaurant in the entire Rivertown, and it would be the best restaurant ever. Chapter 42, Reorganization. I believe everyone would have heard some rumors yesterday regarding first-grade restaurant having a new boss. Let us welcome our new boss, Director Wang. Within first-grade restaurant, Manager Huang gathered all the employees after they were done with their work in the restaurant at approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Hello everyone, I'm Wang Xian and will be the boss of this restaurant in the future. Wang Xian walked up and smiled faintly at the crowd. The entire restaurant had 50 employees currently. The employee count was considered to be high among restaurants. Just the number of waitresses alone had reached 30 people. Similarly, this helped to guarantee service quality. So young. A female waitress looked at Wang Xian and exclaimed when she couldn't contain her bewilderment. All the employees looked inquisitively at Wang Xian. Indeed, Wang Xian was too young to the point that he didn't look like a boss. They were all older than Wang Xian. Seeing this, Wang Xian lifted his head slightly and released a surge of dragon power towards them. The restaurant will operate as always. Since I'm taking over this place, I have to make some changes to this restaurant. The first change will be to increase all employees' base salary by 10%. Other rules will remain the same as for now. Don't think that I'm easy to fool just because I'm young. When I have to fire someone, I won't be soft. I have inquired about your jobs and salary. What I'm trying to say is that your compensation will definitely be better now than it was with Director Li. I'm more generous than Director Li. As he spoke, he revealed a faint smile. If you encounter any issues, you can look for Manager Huang or look for me directly. Everything could be discussed and I'm easy to talk to. However, if anyone makes a mistake, I wouldn't be kind with my words either. As Wang Xian spoke, the aura he emitted from his body made the atmosphere around him seem to have solidified. It was as though everything under the skies had him as the focus. The waitress, kitchen personnel, front desk personnel and other employees were all listening attentively. They could feel a sense of might that originated from the soul from the young man in front of them. Alright, you guys can go and have a good rest. Head chef, bring along another chef and Manager Huang to come and see me for a while. Wang Xian looked towards them and instructed them. Phew! They felt like it was as though they had received an order and dispersed immediately. As they walked away, they were commenting softly. What the? Why does it feel like our current boss has an aura around him? He had a stronger majestic aura around him than Director Li. The new boss is indeed generous to directly increase our salary by 10%. This is equivalent to $400 to $500. What a young boss. He's probably just about 20. However, the boss has a majestic aura around him. Could it be that he is a rich second generation from a large family? The boss is so handsome. Young, handsome and rich. So cool. Director Wang. The head chef brought a chef along and walked over as they addressed him with smiles. However, they were still a little reserved. Wang Xian was listening to the comments of his employees as he looked at the two chefs. He smiled and nodded his head. This was the impact he had envisioned. As a boss, he had to be able to control his employees first and make his employees respect and fear him a little at the same time. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to manage the company effectively. Currently, he had achieved the impact he wanted. Come, I'd like to know more about the operations of our current restaurant. Wang Xian sat down with them at the waiting area by the side. Director Wang, these are our supply channels and these are some unique dishes we offered. Manager Huang took out a booklet and passed it to him. Wang Xian nodded his head. He had found out a little about these previously. What was outstanding about first-grade restaurant was that the variety of seafood it offered was large. Moreover, the chefs had great culinary skills and the restaurant had great service quality and a good environment. For example, the caviar, two-headed abalone and some precious seafood had a specialized purchaser. It was the uncle of Director Li previously who was the specialized purchaser. Now that Director Li had left, he had also resigned. Nonetheless, the purchase channel was still intact. Precious items like caviar were purchased directly from overseas and the costs were high. As for ordinary seafood, they were purchased from the seafood market. Yellow croaker fish, true tunas and other precious seafood would have to be obtained from auctions by the sea. It would also be dependent on luck. Director Wang, our contract with Golden Lobster Managing Company is about to end and will not be renewed. We have to find other channels quickly. Besides that, we have to purchase a batch of caviar soon. Also, we are running out of top-quality ingredients in the restaurant, Manager Huang said to Wang Xian. Although there weren't many customers who could afford top-quality ingredients, they were a symbol of strength and were a good publicity stunt. For example, if one restaurant has two-headed abalone, Atlantic blue marlin, yellow croaker fish, Australian lobsters, large lobsters and other kinds of top-quality seafood put up as display, and the other restaurant doesn't have such top-quality ingredients, this would be a distinct difference. One would have the impression that the first restaurant is better and the number of customers who would patronize it would be greater. Therefore, Wang Xian had to find some top-quality ingredients for now. The supply of large lobsters from our seas is too little each day. Besides that, we don't have ingredients such as caviar. Wang Xian shook his head slightly. Boss, we have to go to the seafood market early in the morning to get those ingredients. As for top-quality seafood, they aren't in ample supply in the seafood market. Disregarding the high price of large lobsters and crabs, the quantity is limited too. Sometimes, we might not even be able to get it. If we use frozen ingredients, the taste would be a little worse off, the chef explained. Leave the supply of seafood to me. Wang Xian nodded his head slightly and continued, as for the rest, everything shall be the same as before. Besides that, Longxian restaurant would be opening soon. When they open for business, they will definitely organize some event. At that time, we must be able to keep up and play around with them. Boss, even if they wish to gain market share, we still have an advantage as our reputation has spread. As long as we can obtain sufficient top-quality seafood to attract traffic and maintain the quality of ordinary seafood, they would definitely not be a match for us. Manager Huang spoke confidently. Great. Let me handle the issue of top-quality ingredients. Head chef, I'll leave the issue of the quality of ordinary seafood to you. Wang Xian nodded his head. Rest assured, boss, and leave it to us. The kitchen will ensure the quality of the seafood, guaranteed the head chef. Alright, if there are any issues in the future, come and look for me. It's fine too if it's relating to your everyday life. Wang Xian smiled and patted on the head chef's shoulders. Thank you, boss. The head chef smiled. Get rid of these fish tanks for ornamental fish in the middle. I'll get bigger tanks and some ornamental fish, Wang Xian instructed as he looked at the empty fish tanks in the middle of the restaurant. The ornamental fish in them had been taken away by Director Li. It was initially used to keep the arowana that Director Li had borrowed from others. It was an easy task for Wang Xian to get these ornamental fish. At this point, he was considering if he should get some expensive ornamental fish to be used as a display. Chapter 43, Looking for Top-Quality Ingredients. I didn't expect that you would look like a boss when you are really one. After talking to Manager Huang and the main chef, Guan Shuqing beamed at the serious Wang Xian. Haha, really? Do I look like a professional? Wang Xian chuckled and asked in vain. Yes, a little. Looks like you're going to be busy in the next few days. Where are you going to find top-quality ingredients? Do you want me to go with you? Guan Shuqing asked him with a smile. Not really. You have to run around to find them. Besides, the weather is hot. You will stay in the shop and keep a tab on my money. Wang Xian looked at her smilingly. Well, what's the matter with that? I can take hardship well. Guan Shuqing rolled eyes at him. I still cannot allow the belle of the University of Rivertown to run around outside and get tanned. Otherwise, I am committing a sin by doing so. I have ways to get those top-quality ingredients. Don't worry. You'll get food tasting first after I got them. Wang Xian spoke with a smile. You better be careful if you're asking me to try. I'll eat so much that your restaurant might go bankrupt, Guan Shuqing said with some slyness. Haha, if you really did it, then I have nothing to say. Wang Xian said with a smile. I'll be leaving in a while. Later, you'll learn the daily revenue and expenses from Manager Huang. After which, check on the inventory. I'll need you to look after my money in the future. He continued joking. Sure, go get busy. Guan Shuqing nodded to him. Okay, I'll give you your wage in advance. Let me know if you need more in the future. Wang Xian stood up and fished for his phone. He transferred $10,000 to her through WeChat. Guan Shuqing took out her phone immediately when she heard it buzz. However, Wang Xian took away her phone and received the money on her behalf. He smiled and said, if you work for me, you'll get to enjoy life. Wang Xian returned her phone to her and spoke teasingly. Guan Shuqing froze for a moment as she looked at the transaction on her WeChat. With a slight blush on her cheek she said, that would depend on my mood too. If the boss is nasty, I'll quit too. Okay, I'm leaving. Wang Xian grinned and waved to Guan Shuqing. Get going, Guan Shuqing looked at him and said. Director Wang, see you. I'll take care of everything in the restaurant. On seeing that Wang Xian was about to leave, Manager Huang immediately walked over and saw him off. Okay, call me if there's anything. Work together with Guan Shuqing too. Wang Xian nodded. Rest assured, Director Wang. Manager Huang nodded. After he left first-grade restaurant, Wang Xian rode his Harley motorcycle to the seaside while thinking of ways to fish for the seafood. The restaurant required top-quality ingredients every day. Hence, he would need a large volume of seafood. There were many top-rated seafoods available in the domestic waters. Take lobster as an instance. Those who knew something about seafood would understand that the Australian lobsters were one of the average-priced lobsters. However, the price was jacked up to $200 to $250 for every catty in recent years. Within China, several kinds of lobsters were more expensive than Australian lobsters, like the scalloped spiny lobsters, ornate spiny lobsters, and striped spiny lobsters. But too many locals were foodies. Hence, the number of lobsters in China's domestic waters were left with very few of them. As such, they were too overpriced. In particular, the Chinese ornate spiny lobsters, also known as the divine lobsters or the rainbow lobsters, were jacked up to $5,000 to $6,000 for every 4 to 5 catties. In addition to the lobsters, the wild giant yellow croaker fish, and Chinese bahaba fish found in China were expensive as well. 3 catties of wild giant yellow croaker would cost about $8,000 to $12,000 for every catty. While the Chinese bahaba fish cost a few million for each, its fish gelatin could fetch a scary price of hundreds of thousands of dollars. These fish could be found in the nearby waters around the country, but it had become so scarce that it was hard to find one in a few years. If I can catch fish like wild giant yellow croakers and Chinese bahaba fish, it would give us some great publicity. Wang Xian pondered to himself. Very soon, he came to the seaside. He parked his Harley motorcycle at the side and walked to a remote spot. He took off his clothes. With a swift movement, Wang Xian jumped into the water. Transform into dragon. Splash! In just a move, Wang Xian turned into a 2 meters long divine dragon. The divine dragon exuded strong and powerful strength as it swished its tail and dived into the ocean. I'll check out the clam girl first. She should have some transformation after the 2 days cultivation, Wang Xian thought to himself and headed to the spot where the clam girl was. The golden tail swung, surging strong currents. On seeing Wang Xian swimming over, some of the surrounding marine animals were shuddering and dared not move. Some even fled in terror. Soon, Wang Xian arrived around the remote island in the middle of the ocean, sensing the position of the clam girl. Moving his body, he swam to the clam girl. Queen Clam, Level 6. Art of Cultivation, Water Dragon Transformation. Superpower, ability to control clam race whose level is lower than own existing level, water control. No changes to her level, but she has cultivated her own superpower. She can control her own kind whose level is lower than hers, and water. Wang Xian was surprised to see the clam girl's attributes. On top of that, the name of the clam girl was changed to Queen Clam. Dragon King. Sensing Wang Xian's arrival, the clam girl opened its shell and revealed the flesh inside. He was surprised to find that the flesh had gradually become humanoid. However, there were no limbs and face except for a simple embryonic form. Does that mean the clam girl will change into a human when her level gets higher? Wang Xian secretly thought to himself. He looked at the clam girl and commanded, "Clam girl, show me your water control ability." "Yes, Dragon King." After sending the message to the clam girl, he found that the water around him began to surge. The surge was extremely powerful. Soon, he noticed that the sea water at the bottom of the ocean began to freeze. Boo! At this time, he saw a solidified water body appeared beside the clam girl. With her mind control, the ball of water was hurled forward. The ball of water was thrown off on the boulder at the side, leaving a dented mark on it. Not bad, the clam girl possesses a fair strength now. With her sturdy clamshell, the sharks might not necessarily be able to beat her. Follow me to the sea farther out, Wang Xian ordered the clam girl. Yes, Dragon King. Wang Xian nodded. He took the clam girl to the waters farther out. To his surprise, the clam girl was moving at a breakneck speed. Her water control ability allowed her to control the flow of water around her and accelerate her pace. She just cultivates on the water dragon transformation. As time goes by, she will be more powerful than now. Wang Xian looked and sped forward. A golden divine dragon, along with an odd and huge sea clam, were swimming freely in the vast ocean. Chapter 44, The Chaotic Coral Reefs Area. Grouper. Wild grouper costs approximately $100 per caddy currently. Tiger grouper. Wild tiger grouper costs approximately $200 per caddy currently. While swimming in the seas, Wang Xian would spot precious fish from time to time. However, all these fish were devoured by him directly. As the quantity was too low or only one, it wouldn't be useful even if he had brought it to the restaurant. The truth was that within the seas, there was still a lot of fish that had a high value. However, the less common they were, the higher the value. High-value fish were often not available in large quantities. The Bohai Sea was one of the most shallow sea regions in the country and was only several dozens of meters deep. Currently, Wang Xian could dominate all marine animals that were within 20 meters of him using his dragon energy. The resources in nearby regions of the country are too scarce and couldn't be compared with the sea regions of Europe and the Americas. With such a large population and uncontrolled fishing, many marine animals were on the brink of extinction. The marine animals within the seas couldn't be compared with regions in other countries. There's a small school of fish right ahead. Wang Xian squinted his eyes and looked at the several hundreds of fish in front of him. Those should be black sea bream, a common fish found in the Bohai Sea. Moving his body, he dominated the school of fish using his dragon power before the school of black sea bream could react to the situation. Devour. Wang Xian opened his mouth and started devouring the hundreds of black sea bream one after another. Name, Wang Xian. Race, human, able to transform into a dragon. Level, 3. Dragon energy, 323/100,000. Superpower, dominate the marine animals, ability to rule any marine animals that are lower than your own level. Devour any form of marine animals, for extraction of dragon energy. Art of cultivation, divine dragon transformation. I still need a lot of dragon energy to reach level 4, but let's put aside the issue of leveling up and focus on finding some top quality ingredients first. Wang Xian looked at his attributes and thought to himself. He looked at the clam girl behind him before heading forward. Ah, the place right ahead is really beautiful. The seafloor of the seas was broader and more magnificent. They also had a stranger landscape than those on the land. After swimming for about an hour, other than finding several large lobsters, he didn't see any other top-quality seafood. He looked ahead and noticed colorful reefs ahead of him. The entire seafloor was decorated with different colors. Under the illumination of the faint sunlight, it looked very magical. However, the landscape was very chaotic in that area with protruding rocks from time to time. Wang Xian also noticed that there were many torn fishnets around that area. If one drove a fishing boat over to fish in this chaotic coral reefs region with lots of sharp rocks, it would be over if his net got caught on the rocks and was cut open. Wang Xian accelerated and swam over and found fishing nets on many rocks. What Wang Xian didn't know was that this area was known as the chaotic coral reefs region by experienced fishermen in the Bohai Sea. The reason why it was known as such was that there were many submerged reefs in this area. It was also considered as the restricted ground for fishing. The resources around these areas are clearly more abundant. As Wang Xian approached the area, he immediately saw a school of pomfret. There were approximately 400 to 500 of them that were swimming in the vicinity. Moving his body, he encountered schools of fish and still chose to devour them. Boom! Wang Xian charged over and dominated the school of level 0 pomfrets directly. After which, he turned them into dragon energy. It's pretty here. After devouring the school of pomfrets, Wang Xian turned his attention to the entire coral reef region in front of him. Although the landscape wasn't smooth, it was of different colors and one couldn't hide the magical feeling this place was giving off. Wang Xian wiggled his body slightly and looked to the surroundings. He noticed that there were quite a number of jellyfish around. Jellyfish were poisonous marine animals. Strong jellyfish could even poison a person to death easily. However, only uniquely horrifying jellyfish would pose a threat to Wang Xian. As for ordinary jellyfish, Wang Xian wasn't wary at all. Wang Xian swam slowly towards the inner regions of the coral reefs. Ah, that should be scalloped spiny lobster. The current price of it is about $200 per catty. Wang Xian saw a lobster that weighed over a catty passing by. With just a thought, he controlled it with his dragon power and made it swim towards him. Swoosh! However, at this moment, a horrifying living animal emerged from the seafloor and bit on that scalloped spiny lobster directly. Crack crack! That monster bit onto the head of the lobster directly. In just a short while, it had killed the lobster. Wang Xian was slightly shocked and quickly turned his attention to that monster. This is conger eel. Wang Xian squinted his eyes. Conger eels were considered as violent animals just like an electric eel. Similarly to an electric eel, a conger eel was capable of discharging electricity. In addition, a conger eel was more horrifying than an electric eel. Conger eel was known for his tenacity and would even attack other types of fish. Wang Xian was scrutinizing this ingesting conger eel. It had a body that spanned 2.5 meters and a hideous-looking head. With just a single bite, it broke the shell of the lobster. Conger eel, level 3. Extractable dragon energy, 231. A level 3 conger eel. Wang Xian opened his mouth slightly. At level 3, his dragon power would not have a huge influence on the conger eel. He wiggled his tail slightly and opened up his claws. Jerking ahead, he attacked the conger eel directly. Swoosh! Just as Wang Xian charged over, the conger eel, which was 10 meters away, immediately lifted its head and looked at Wang Xian with a cold stare. At the same time, it was emanating a violent aura. At the same level, the divine dragon isn't afraid of any living animal. A cold look surfaced on Wang Xian while he did not reduce his attacking momentum. Growl! The conger eel opened its mouth widely and charged towards Wang Xian without hesitating. Go and die! Wang Xian extended his dragon claws and grabbed onto its head directly. SSS! However, at this moment, a blue ray of light emitted from the conger eel's head. Within the glow was a strong electric current. At that instant, Wang Xian could feel his dragon claw going numb. His entire body even started shivering. SSS! The conger eel opened its mouth widely and bit towards Wang Xian's head. Growl! Giving out a soft roar, Wang Xian opened his mouth too and charged ahead. Crack! Crack! He ripped the conger eel's head out with a bite and quickly devoured it. Seeking its own death. Wang Xian showed disdain at the level 3 conger eel which was being arrogant. At this moment, only a level 5 or 6 conger eel would be able to deal with him. The coral reefs in this region are chaotic and everywhere. It's very suitable for lobsters and conger eels to survive. If there are more lobsters here, I wouldn't have to worry about getting top-quality lobsters in the restaurant. Wang Xian looked to the surroundings and instructed Clam Girl to search the surroundings. Dragon King, there's a lobster right here. Clam Girl quickly brought him the news. Moving his body, he swam over directly. He saw Clam Girl had captured a lobster that was over 1 meter long. Ornate spiny lobsters. It is the expensive ornate spiny lobsters and weighs about 2 catties. It seems like there would be quite an amount of lobsters in this area. Looking at this colorful lobster, excitement started filling Wang Xian. Chapter 45, Crawfish Soldiers. The market price for this lobster can hit more than $1,000. The unit price is more expensive than the Australian lobster. Ornate spiny lobsters were of the highest value within the domestic waters, followed by the Chinese lobsters, a name of a lobster. You will control this lobster and continue with the search. Wang Xian commanded the clam girl and continued the search in their surroundings. The colors of the surrounding corals were very close to that of the lobsters. Hence, it was not easy to spot them. If the lobsters remained still and hidden among the coral reefs, it would not be easy to spot them. After all, Wang Xian was only a tiny divine dragon. Without divine sense, he could not scan and check the surrounding situation. Should I upgrade my eyes with dragon energy so that they can have the Byakugan effect in Naruto's anime? Wang Xian pondered to himself. He could use dragon energy to upgrade and strengthen any parts of his body, including the eyes. However, it would require a lot of dragon energy to do so. After some considerations, he gave up. His current level was too low, and he had too little of dragon energy. Wang Xian observed the surrounding with his sharp eyes. Some of the colorful fish were swimming around him. There is a lobster over there. It should be the painted spiny lobster. The price for this is about $300 per catty. Not too low for it. The dragon power enveloped the area, and Wang Xian commanded that painted spiny lobster to swim over. Looking at the 20 centimeters lobster, a smile surfaced on Wang Xian's face. Perhaps the lobsters here were suitable to supply for the use of his restaurant. There is a conger eel. A cold smile surfaced when Wang Xian saw an eel roaming slowly between the corals. That was a level 2 eel which was smaller than the previous one just now. He swam over and devoured the eel which did not put up even the slightest resistance. Carry on with the search. One by one, Wang Xian found the lobsters and caught 20 of them. All of them were controlled by the ability of the clam girl. It only took about half an hour to catch 20 of them from this corner of the area. This entire zone with reefs and rocks seems like a treasure land. A glimmer of excitement flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. He moved forward and saw a huge coral reef in front of him. The entire reef was protruding out from the seabed for about 5 meters, and it was covered with colorful corals. We should be able to find lobsters over there. With a swift movement, Wang Xian swam over. When he was over there, he was stunned. Filled in between the crevices of the coral reefs were at least a few dozen lobsters, including painted spiny lobster, ornate spiny lobsters, and Chinese lobsters. Among those, the biggest lobsters are ornate spiny lobsters. That must be at least 5 to 6 catties. This is a breeding ground for lobsters. It was difficult to come across ornate spiny lobsters of such a size for decades. This was a region that had yet to be fished by anyone. As such, the number of lobsters here was beyond his expectation. Wang Xian was thrilled. With a jerk forward, he enveloped the area with his dragon energy and commanded the lobsters to follow behind. As the lobsters were moving slowly, Wang Xian had to reduce his speed too. He continued to swim forward and spotted a larger reef area ahead. Based on the experience just now, that might be a breeding ground for the lobsters. Wang Xian's eyes brightened up as he led the lobsters to the coral reef. This is. When he arrived at that reef, he was stunned by what he saw. Not many lobsters resided here. Instead, it was an ornate spiny lobster. Beside this lobster was a conger eel, and it was even larger than the one he met previously. The conger eel was about 3.5 meters long and was considered to be a giant conger eel. Its body was bulky and looked like an underwater monster. However, the eel was not the only one that shocked him. There was an ornate spiny lobster as well. The size of the lobster of at least 1.5 meters was beyond his expectation. In history, the largest lobster recorded was only 1.2 meters at 40 catties. The ornate spiny lobster before him should weigh about 50 catties at least. Its body seemed durable and robust, especially the pair of colorful lobster claws which looked like a sharp weapon. The colorful body seemed exceptionally noble too. However, this lobster was a little terrified as it was confronting the conger eel before it. Conger eel, level 4. Extractable dragon energy, 548. Ornate spiny lobster, level 3. Extractable dragon energy, 346. A level 4 conger eel and a level 3 lobster. Wang Xian was shocked by this terrifying conger eel. Not even any of the ordinary sharks would dare to provoke it. This level 3 ornate spiny lobster was also out of his knowledge. The ocean is really amazing, occupying a 70% surface area of Earth and with areas that were unknown to mankind. Besides that, various unbelievable species can be found in it. Just as Wang Xian exclaimed, the giant conger eel struck at the ornate spiny lobster swiftly. The giant ornate spiny lobster lifted its claws hastily and lurched forward. SST. At this time, the body of the conger eel gave off blinding blue sparks. The ornate spiny lobster retreated speedily as it was fearful of the blue sparks. The conger eel spun its heavy body around and lurched forward again. This time, the ornate spiny lobster raised its claws and clamped at the eel's body. What is the value of such a large lobster? It could be the greatest asset of the restaurant. Wang Xian stared at the ornate spiny lobster with bright eyes. On seeing the offensive conger eel, he moved his body and attacked it. Roar! Before the conger eel could launch its attack, it quickly turned around and glared coldly at Wang Xian, who struck. Wang Xian did not care. He was not afraid of a level 4 conger eel. Bang, bang, bang. The conger eel looked at Wang Xian with fear. Yet, its eyes were full of greed. With its body flashing with blue lights, it swept out to Wang Xian. If the voltage from a level 3 conger eel can cause numbness, the voltage from a level 4 conger eel should be much stronger. Wang Xian moved away and dodged the attack from the conger eel. He extended out his claws and scratched the body of the eel. SST. The sharp claws drew a long and bloody mark on the body. Roar! The conger eel spun its head fiercely and rapidly. It opened its mouth, which was full of teeth, and bit on Wang Xian. Wang Xian raised its claws and charged forward. Crack! At the same time, blue sparks were flickering from the mouth of the conger eel. Wang Xian was startled and ducked quickly. Shoo! Just then, he saw a water ball fired right into the mouth of the conger eel. Wang Xian was slightly stunned. He knew it was the clam girl who had made her move. With a swift movement, the dragon claws grabbed the conger eel by its neck. He opened the dragon mouth and bit down. Extracted 548 dragon energy. Wang Xian revealed a smile on his face. He looked at the ornate spiny lobster again with a sudden thought. The lobster was fleeing in horror when it saw Wang Xian swallow the mighty conger eel in one gulp. Don't think of escaping, little lobster. Seeing that you're gifted by nature, I'll keep you as one of my crawfish soldiers. Endnote. 1 Byakugan is a power originating in the Japanese Naruto animation. It is characterized by their enlarged and featureless white irises. When activated, it will give a powerful range of vision, magnifying up to cellular level on its targets, or viewing things at great distances. Chapter 46, Pod of Lobsters. Within the seas, a 1.5-meter gigantic ornate spiny lobster was scampering away rapidly in the water. Its actions looked extremely comical. Still trying to escape. Wang Xian swayed his tail and caught up with this ornate spiny lobster directly and pointed his dragon claw at it. This lobster held up its large pincers in fear and looked at Wang Xian in horror with its pair of tiny eyes. He was petrified. That horrifying conger eel was its natural nemesis and was eaten by this golden-colored monster just a while ago. How could it possibly go up against this monster? Growl! Wang Xian let out a roar as he shrouded this lobster with his dragon power. The timid ornate spiny lobster shriveled immediately. If its intelligence had manifested, it would definitely beg for mercy and claim to have parents and kids to take care of. Submit to me, the Dragon King. A supreme intention was directed into his mind. The ornate spiny lobster shrank its body instinctively and placed his large pincers down as it squatted in front of Wang Xian. That's the way. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile and opened his mouth gradually. A drop of dragon blood flew out from its mouth. The essence blood was emitting a golden glow and fell on the head of the ornate spiny lobster. Don't resist it. Wang Xian directed the words into his mind. The ornate spiny lobster didn't dare to move recklessly and simply stayed there without moving as the golden-colored dragon blood entered its body. Success! Wang Xian smiled. This ornate spiny lobster had become his second subordinate. This lobster hasn't got its intelligence manifested and couldn't cultivate. I have to use dragon energy to upgrade it and manifest its intelligence for him to pick up cultivation arts. Wang Xian thought to himself. This lobster was different from the clam girl. Clam girl already had her intelligence manifested. Therefore, Wang Xian didn't have to use dragon energy to manifest her intelligence after subduing her. Manifesting intelligence would exhaust a large amount of dragon energy. Wang Xian placed his dragon claw on the head of that ornate spiny lobster. Streams of dragon energy entered its body and strengthened its intelligence and body. Crack crack, crack crack. Cracking sounds came from the body of the ornate spiny lobsters. Glows of 7 colors shimmered on its body as its body grew gradually to 2 meters. It does look like a divine lobster. Wang Xian laughed as he saw the glow of the lobster. Dragon King. Just as he had exhausted about 700 points of dragon energy, Wang Xian heard a feint will reach him. Wang Xian immediately stopped the upgrade using dragon energy and looked at the ornate spiny lobster. Little lobster, is that you? Dragon King, it's me. The ornate spiny lobster moved its long antennae as a response. Haha, great. I shall impart you a cultivation art. Your claws are pretty sharp. In that case, I shall impart to you the cultivation arts of Metal Elemental Divine Dragon. With just a thought, the cultivation arts of Metal Dragon, a part of Divine Dragon transformation, was imparted on the ornate spiny lobster. Crawfish Soldier, Level 4. Art of Cultivation, Metal Dragon Transformation. Superpower, ability to control lobster race whose level is lower than own existing level. Through the upgrades using dragon energy, ornate spiny lobster's level has increased by 1. Moreover, its body also looks much stronger. This was because I have used dragon energy to upgrade it directly. This also allows it to awaken its first superpower to control a lobster race whose level is lower than its own existing level. Wang Xian looked at the superpower of Crawfish Soldier and excitement flashed in his eyes. This surprise was within his expectation. After subduing Clam Girl, he did not use dragon energy to upgrade her abilities. She relied on herself to gather dragon energy and awaken 2 superpowers. One of them was the ability to control a clam race whose level was lower than her own existing level, and the other was water control. As for Crawfish Soldier, Wang Xian used dragon energy to upgrade its abilities directly. This awakened its first superpower directly and allowed it to control a lobster race whose level was lower than its own existing level. This was the strength of the Divine Dragon that could suppress all things. With the Divine Dragon's bloodline, animals which practiced Divine Dragon transformation could all possess the horrifying strength of suppressing its own race whose level is lower than its own. Now that I have 2 marine races subdued, let's just give you all a name. Clam Girl shall be called Roving Girl and you shall be called Roving Lobster. Hee hee. Wang Xian smiled and looked at the roving lobster in front of him. He immediately instructed, go and gather all the lobsters in the vicinity and bring them over. Yes, Dragon King. Roving Lobster nodded his head before moving his body and scampering out. Although Roving Lobster looked a little comical while moving in water, its speed was 5 to 6 times faster than before. After the upgrades of dragon energy and obtaining the cultivation arts of Metal Dragon transformation, this lobster was destined to roam the 9 skies in the future. With Roving Lobster, it would be more convenient to capture lobsters in the future. Excitement flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. This was one of the reasons why he didn't mind expending a large amount of dragon energy to upgrade a single Crawfish Soldier. Wang Xian waited quietly on the spot. After 40 to 50 minutes, he sensed Roving Lobster rushing over from a distant place. After another 10 minutes, he saw a 2 meters rainbow lobster headed towards him with 2 long antennae like a divine lobster. Behind him was a pod of densely packed large lobsters. For species of lobsters, namely ornate spiny lobsters, scalloped spiny lobsters, Chinese lobsters and painted spiny lobsters, were separated into groups in front of him. The scene was grandiose and there were at least 10,000 of them. Wang Xian looked at this huge pod of lobsters in disbelief. Dragon King. Roving lobster swam to the side of Wang Xian and stopped on the rock respectfully. Great. Huh, so many lobsters. I'm rich. Just these 10,000 lobsters alone could be sold for several tens of millions. Wang Xian's eyes lit up. Just these lobsters in front of him would bring him astronomical profits. These are just lobsters in the vicinity. There are more at places further away, Roving Lobster said. Ha, Wang Xian laughed in ecstasy. These lobsters were marine animals without intelligence. Therefore, Wang Xian didn't feel a tinge of guilt for selling them for money. In the world of marine animals, large fish fed on small fish and small fish fed on shrimps. These were the primeval rules of survival. I won't be lacking supplies of lobsters for first-grade restaurant in the future. Also, I'll be able to go look for other top-quality ingredients. Wang Xian looked at the large pot of lobsters in front of him and revealed a smile. Within first-grade restaurant, he had settled the supply of top-quality lobsters. However, this wouldn't be enough. He still had to look for other top-quality ingredients in order to make first-grade restaurant become the best and most famous restaurant in Rivertown. Roving Lobster, cultivate diligently at this place. Roving Girl, follow me and continue with our search, Wang Xian said to the Roving Lobster. After which, he brought Roving Girl along and started exploring the surroundings. At this place, there were quite a number of other marine animals other than the large number of lobsters. Moreover, he wanted to see how large this region was and the approximate number of lobsters in the area. That is. After roaming around the chaotic coral reefs area for 2 hours, Wang Xian still hadn't covered the entire region. Based on his estimates, this place had a radius of at least 30 kilometers. Wang Xian finally found several precious fish after devouring and looking for top-quality ingredients for hours. They were wild giant yellow croaker fish. A total of 5 yellow croaker fish had a golden glow on the surface of their body and each one weighed 3 to 4 catties. I'm so lucky today. Moving his body, Wang Xian swam over directly. He shrouded the 5 precious yellow croaker fish with his dragon power and suppressed them. Chapter 47, Guan Shuqing's Problem. Wild giant yellow croakers, in the present, were almost extinct. Any one of them with a weight of 3 catties and above could fetch a price of $30,000 to $40,000. $10,000 per catty would definitely be the top-quality fish in the world. Wang Xian looked at the 10 wild giant yellow croakers that he dominated with a faint smile on his face. Having stayed in the ocean for more than 17 hours, the biggest benefit that he reaped was Roving Lobster and the lobsters. Besides that, he also acquired 10 wild giant yellow croakers. These wild giant yellow croakers were worth at least $300,000. Wang Xian did not bring all the lobsters up. Instead, he brought those wild giant yellow croakers back to shore. He got Roving Lobster to guard the entire lobsters area and commanded Roving Girl to look for top-quality ingredients during her free time. Wang Xian transferred the image of abalone's, wild giant yellow croaker, and Chinese bahaba fish to Roving Girl so that she could search for them. After coming out of the sea, it was 9 a.m. the next day. He touched his empty stomach, as he had already missed 2 meals in a day. Wang Xian put on his clothes and headed to the place where he had parked his Harley motorcycle. How nice it would be if I had a house by the sea. In this way, I wouldn't have to go through the trouble. It would be best to have a fish farm or fishing boat at sea. Next time, I can better explain the source of the seafood if I put them on the fishing boat. Wang Xian was pondering to himself. He took out his phone to check the price of fishing boats. There were several messages on the phone. In addition to Guan Shuqing's messages, there were messages from Xue Jing. Xue Jing sent him a message asking if he had time to meet. Subsequently, he followed up with some warm greetings again. Wang Xian chuckled after he saw these and returned a few polite replies. He rode all the way back to first-grade restaurant and saw Guan Shuqing and manager Huang exchanging conversations as soon as he entered the restaurant. On seeing him, Guan Shuqing was displeased and grumbled, "Where did you go? You didn't reply to my messages since yesterday." Wang Xian saw some resentment flashing in her eyes. He chuckled and said, "I have been busy, and I was too busy to look at my phone." "Who will believe you? You're so busy that you can't even look at your phone." Guan Shuqing stared at him with disbelief. "It's true. I'm not lying to you." Wang Xian walked over without a word and swung the bag of wild giant yellow croakers in his hand. "To get some seafood back, I was busy throughout the night. I didn't even sleep well last night. Manager Huang, bring it to the kitchen and keep it. We're not selling these for the time being." He smiled to Guan Shuqing as he spoke to Manager Huang. "Yes, Director Wang." Manager Huang trotted over with curiosity as he took over the bag in Wang Xian's hand. "This is..." When he saw the giant yellow croakers, his eyes were wide open as he was taken aback. "Director Wang, these are giant yellow croakers?" "Yes, wild giant yellow croaker. Keep them properly. They should be dying." Wang Xian nodded. "Sure, Director Wang. You're awesome. Wild giant yellow croaker is so rare that it is hard to catch even one. You have got 10 of them, and each of them is at least 3 caddies. Director Wang, you're simply superb." Manager Huang spoke with surprise. Then, he quickly took the fish back to the kitchen. When the main chef saw the fish, he was also shocked. The new boss was awesome. He had managed to get 10 wild giant yellow croakers in just a day, and these are all the priceless top-quality ingredients. "You got 10 wild giant yellow croakers?" asked Guan Shuqing shockingly as she knew about the scarcity of the giant yellow croakers as well. "Yes, I got them through tremendous effort." Wang Xian nodded. "Wang Xian, you're now superb," said Guan Shuqing with her mouth agape. "Ha, it's nothing. You'll be well fed if you follow my lead." Wang Xian smirked. "You're such an outstanding man now. I'm sure many girls will take a fancy to you in the future." Suddenly, Guan Shuqing looked at him, feeling lost. "Her?" Wang Xian was slightly stunned. Subsequently, he joked and said, "That's for sure. Just that I'm not sure if there is anyone as pretty as our Guan Shuqing who will take a fancy to me." What a glib tongue. Guan Shuqing heard his words and chuckled, "Well, I'm going to check and make a comparison with the old data. I cannot take your salary for granted. I will also take a look at the office." Wang Xian came to a small office with 3 tables, among which, there was one desk that belonged to him. Wang Xian picked up the old data and studied it. The daily sales figure of first-grade restaurant was about $150,000. Such turnover is considered to be high, at $50 million a year. Yet, the profit margin was minimal at 12% to 13% of the revenue. Expenses include taxes, staff wages, in-store expenses, and the procurement cost. With 50 employees, the staff wages cost almost $20,000. Procurement expenses were even higher than this. Take caviar for instance, there was basically no profit in selling it. The first-grade restaurant could enjoy its reputation because of the excellent quality in the ingredients and the culinary skills of the chef. Director Li was a very enterprising person. He hired 3 award-winning gold medalist chefs. The so-called gold medalist chefs were chefs who were qualified to be the main chefs in 5-star hotels. The yearly salary of these 3 cooks was around $500,000. With the increase in cost, the reputation of the restaurant was on the rise too. 5 to 7 million profits in a year was considered high to a restaurant. An average restaurant would make more than 25% of profits. The first-grade restaurant's profit margin is still relatively low. If we can double the profits, we will have $13 to $14 million in income. Wang Xian was thinking to himself. He remained confident with first-grade restaurant. Once their top-quality ingredients were ready, they could make at least 35% profits. By that time, the yearly earnings could hit over $20 million. During the day, Wang Xian had been staying in the restaurant to study how to make money. Guan Shuqing was also looking at the various data. Ring. When Wang Xian was about to get Guan Shuqing for dinner at 6 p.m., Guan Shuqing's phone rang. Soon after, he heard the reluctant voice of Guan Shuqing. Wang Xian, I had to make a trip home. After she hung up the phone, Guan Shuqing had a troubled face. She apologized to Wang Xian, I might not be able to come tomorrow either. I'm sorry. I just started my work for a day. What's up? Anything wrong? Asked Wang Xian with concern. He was slightly stunned when he saw her expression. Something about my parents. I'm sorry, Guan Shuqing replied with guilt. It's okay. Get going. Wang Xian shook his head and assured her. Well, I'll come back the day after. Guan Shuqing nodded. Wang Xian nodded as he did not take it to heart. Guan Shuqing's house was situated within an old district of the Eastern River District in the river town. They used to be staying in a high-end, duplex residential building in the city center, but they had to sell their house to return the debt after her father's company encountered some problems and went bankrupt. Dad, Mom. When she opened the door, Guan Shuqing saw her parents sitting on the sofa. The middle-aged man was smoking, and his hair was a mess. The fact that he had turned from a billionaire to a penniless man had struck a huge blow to her father. Even her mother was impacted by this significantly. Shuqing is here. The middle-aged man put out the cigarette in his hand immediately. He stood up and said, Get yourself dolled up. We're going to have dinner. Come, Shuqing. Wear something nice today. We have an important dinner, Guan Shuqing's mother said to her too. All right. Guan Shuqing nodded with bitterness on her face. Chapter 48, Is this a confession? The midsummer night was cooling down. Guan Shuqing walked out from a hotel. A chilling breeze blew past her body, causing her to shiver a little. Looking at the bright moon in the sky, she suddenly felt a little helpless. Brother Wu, please be careful. At this moment, her father's voice sounded from behind her. He was walking in front of a middle-aged man and was constantly trying to get on the good books of the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man nodded his head arrogantly and patted on the shoulders of his father. All right, brother, if I can help, I'll definitely help you. Thank you, Brother Wu. Thank you, Brother Wu. Please be careful. Sister Wu, you too. Guan Shuqing's father was full of smiles as he spoke passionately at them. Shuqing, see you in the morning tomorrow. Behind the middle-aged man and woman, a juvenile stared at Guan Shuqing fervently. Guan Shuqing felt uncomfortable at the gaze of the juvenile but still nodded her head slightly. The edge of the juvenile's mouth arched upwards as he said, I'll go and fetch you in the morning tomorrow. Guan Shuqing and her family saw the middle-aged man family leave. Guan Shuqing looked at her and frowned. From here on, be a little more enthusiastic around Wu Chen and don't be so cold to him. Dad! Guan Shuqing looked at her father with displeasure and answered resolutely, I don't like him. Ha! When Guan Shuqing heard her, his face sank. It's fine that you don't like him now. Feelings can be developed over time. Upon hearing her father's reply, Guan Shuqing's body stiffened up. Shuqing, Wu Chen is still a pretty good guy. Moreover, Wu family's conditions are good. Guan Shuqing's mother tried her best to convince Guan Shuqing. Mom, are you all going to sacrifice the happiness of your daughter for the company? Guan Shuqing asked in a pitiful tone. After raising you to this age, you should be thinking about your father. Could you bear to let us stay in that old house till we die? It's time for you to think about us after raising you to this age, Guan Shuqing said to her in a solemn tone. If Wu Chen doesn't reject the idea, have the wedding completed as soon as possible. What? When she heard her father, she looked at him with disbelief. Dad, I'm still studying and am just 21 years old. Are you asking me to get married now? You are going to get married eventually, so what's wrong with getting married now? Guan Shicheng stared at her. No, definitely not. I won't marry someone I don't like. Guan Shuqing shook her head incessantly and her body started leaning back. I don't like him and I will never marry him. Shuqing. Guan Shuqing's mother saw how her daughter reacted and couldn't help but feel her heart aching. She walked over quickly and said, "Oh daughter, we are not asking you to get married to him right now. You guys can try to develop feelings for each other first." I. Guan Shuqing looked at her parents, gritted her teeth and exclaimed, "I already have someone I like." What? When Guan Shicheng heard her words, he stared at her intensely. I have someone that I like. Guan Shuqing gritted her teeth and said resolutely. Someone you like? Great. If the guy that you are fond of has family conditions that are as good as Wu family and could help us, I won't object to it. If he doesn't, I advise you to give up on this idea as soon as possible. After raising you for 20 years, can't you just help out the family? Let me tell you this. Don't even start having second thoughts about this. My words are final. Guan Shicheng looked at her and growled angrily. Guan Shuqing's expression turned pale and tears were welling up in her eyes. Shuqing, your dad and mom are doing this for your own good. Mother Guan walked over and patted the shoulders of her own daughter. For my own good? Asking me to marry someone I don't like is for my own good? Using me as chips in exchange for benefits is for my own good? Guan Shuqing felt that her heart was in pain suddenly. Since the unfortunate event happened to her family, she felt that her parents had changed greatly. Wang Xian. She shouted helplessly in her mind. If Wang Xian's family conditions are better than Wu family, then my parents. But Wu family had assets of $400 to $500 billion. Although Wang Xian is rich, there's a clear difference between him and the Wu family, not to mention helping my family. No, I definitely wouldn't marry someone I don't like. Guan Shuqing sat in the car and her brain was cluttered. It was when she was back in her own room that she finally regained some consciousness. A determined look appeared on her face gradually as she took out her phone and tapped on WeChat. Wang Xian, are you there? She sent the message over anxiously. At 10:30 p.m., Wang Xian had just returned to his dormitory room after bathing and happened to see Guan Shuqing's message. He immediately replied. Yeah, what's the matter? Are you alright? He asked, concerned. Not fine. Guan Shuqing replied. After which, she asked anxiously, do you like me? What the? When Wang Xian saw this message, he was completely surprised. What's her intention behind asking this question? His expression changed rapidly and didn't know how to reply. He would be lying if he said he had no feelings for a beautiful girl like Guan Shuqing. Did you have too much alcohol? However, Wang Xian didn't reply yes directly. He sensed that Guan Shuqing was acting a little weird and wasn't her normal self. There's always a reason behind an abnormal behavior. Therefore, Wang Xian cleverly did not answer her question directly. Guan Shuqing was a little disappointed at this reply and she added immediately, if you could earn $50 million within 3 years, is it okay if you marry me? Cough cough. What the fuck? Wang Xian was drinking water when he saw the reply and choked on it immediately. If he was surprised before, he was shocked now. What the fuck? What's with Guan Shuqing today? Why is she speaking so weirdly? Is this a joke? Wang Xian was making guesses in his mind and felt that the weather was a little erratic the last few days. He answered in a jokingly manner, forget about 3 years. It shouldn't be a problem for me to earn $50 million within 2 years or perhaps even within a year. At that time, will I be able to take a great beauty like you as my wife? He. When Guan Shuqing saw Wang Xian's reply, she finally had a faint smile on her face. Yes, you can. Haha, then you will be too simple. Wow. If the guys in school knew about it, wouldn't they die of envy? The goddess of the school would be marrying me. Wang Xian answered in a comical manner. Yeah. When Guan Shuqing saw his reply, she smiled wider. She lay on her bed and replied, "My parents are asking for a guy I dislike to go out with me tomorrow. At that time, please accompany me." Sure, absolutely not a problem. Wang Xian answered directly despite feeling that the message was a little strange. Then we have agreed on this. This baby is going to sleep now. Good night, Xiao Xian. I'll call you again in the morning. Remember to wake up early. When Guan Shuqing sent that message out, her face turned red. Although Xiao Xian isn't as successful as Wu family right now, if he could earn $50 million in 2 to 3 years and I use death to force my parents would definitely not pressure me further. Moreover, they would also likely agree to us being together. After all, Xiao Xian is so capable despite his young age. Oh my god. When Wang Xian saw Guan Shuqing's last message, he could no longer hold back his emotions as he jumped upright. Although their relationship wasn't bad, they were still addressing each other using their full name. He would address her as Guan Shuqing and she would address him as Wang Xian. With Guan Shuqing's personality, she wouldn't call him Xiao Xian and address herself as baby to him. The last message made Wang Xian's heart palpitate violently. He scrolled through the conversation log between the two of them and started pondering the details. Firstly, something must have happened to Guan Shuqing on her way home. Secondly, he. Could it be that Guan Shuqing really likes me and that this was a confession? Ho ho ho. Wang Xian was in ecstasy. Chapter 49, Summer Sun Resort. I'm drop-dead handsome. The next morning, Wang Xian stood in front of the mirror, looking refreshed after a bath. Looking at himself in the mirror, he was pleased. While fiddling with his hairstyle, his phone suddenly rang. Wang Xian spun around and picked up his phone quickly. When he saw Guan Shuqing's number, a smile surfaced on his face. Hello, pretty Guan. Wang Xian squinted his eyes and said. Have you woken up? Yes, where are we going? Do you need me to pick you up? Wang Xian said with a smile. No, I'll be going with the annoying guy. Oh, I forgot to tell you yesterday that you're acting as my boyfriend today. Do you have any issues with that? No, I'm sure. Wang Xian chuckled. He had a sleepless night as he was thinking of what Guan Shuqing meant by what she said yesterday. He was rather into Guan Shuqing. But he was neither someone who could chat with girls easily nor the proactive type. Otherwise, Chi Chu Chu, whom he had been working together with, would have become his girlfriend. Wang Xian did not put much thought into this, but that did not mean that he did not have the desire. Now, he was fired up after Guan Shuqing tempted him. I'll send you the address. See you then. Guan Shuqing hung up after talking to him. Soon after, an address was sent to his WeChat. Guan Shuqing is back to herself today. That's odd. Women are always unpredictable. Wang Xian shook his head. He knew Guan Shuqing must have encountered some problems. Otherwise, she would not have said such a thing yesterday. However, he still remembered that she promised to marry him if he earned $50 million. That was not a difficult task for the present Wang Xian. Her Summer Sun Resort? Isn't that the property of Xue Jing and his family? Upon seeing the address sent by Guan Shuqing, Wang Xian was taken aback by surprise. What a coincidence! Wang Xian laughed as he headed outside. He rode to the old street and had his breakfast before he rode off to the Summer Sun Resort. When he arrived at the Summer Sun Resort, it was only about 9 a.m. He came to the car park at the entrance and parked his motorcycle there. Should I tell Xue Jing? Wang Xian hesitated. After some considerations, he decided to let it go to avoid unnecessary troubles. He put the keys back in his pocket and headed to the entrance. Kite, don't run, stop. At this time, Wang Xian heard a shout and a cheerful cry from a kid behind him. I want to play. A kiddish voice was heard, and Wang Xian felt someone knocking into him and hugging his leg from behind. "Watch out, watch out!" Wang Xian turned around and saw a little boy hugging his thigh nervously. "I'm sorry that I knocked into you. I almost fell too." As Wang Xian turned around, the little boy lifted his head and looked at him shyly. "It's all right." Wang Xian looked at the cute and well-mannered boy. He could not help but to rub his head. "Little kite, why are you running so fast? Wait for your dad and grandpa." A middle-aged man and an elder walked out from a camper van. Along with them were two young men who looked like bodyguards in suits. "Grandpa, Dad. Let's hurry up and play." The little boy released Wang Xian's leg and continued to run inside. "You rascal." The middle-aged man sped up his pace and chased after him. He caught him in his arms. "Listen to me. Stop running. Don't run, don't run." Following behind, the old man came along with a cane. Wang Xian smiled when he saw the cute little boy staggering as he ran. Then, Wang Xian headed for the resort. "Brother Qin, old Qin." At this time, another middle-aged man greeted them at the entrance. "Isn't he the father of Xue Jing, Xue Jiehua?" Wang Xian was a little surprised to see the middle-aged man. As Xue Jiehua was ushering the three people, he also saw Wang Xian. He was slightly taken aback before he walked over. "Benefactor Wang Xian." "Just call me Wang Xian." Wang Xian chuckled at the way he addressed him. "Sure, are you here for leisure?" asked Xue Jiehua with a smile on his face. "Yes, I came here to look around." Wang Xian nodded. "Why don't I get Xiao Jing to accompany you around?" answered Xue Jiehua hurriedly. "No, it's okay. I have to wait for my friend. Mr. Xue, you can ignore me." Wang Xian smiled as he declined. "Sure, then I shall not bother you anymore. Enjoy yourself and let us know if you need anything." Xue Jiehua nodded hurriedly. "All right." Wang Xian nodded and headed inside. Xue Jiehua watched as Wang Xian entered. With a slight hesitation, he fished out his phone and texted his son to entertain Wang Xian eventually. "Brother Xue." Just then, the middle-aged man, not far away, knit his eyebrows and called out for Xue Jiehua with the little boy in his arms. Just now, Xue Jiehua was supposed to greet them, but he cast them aside when he saw a young man. Such a way of doing things was impolite. However, they did not say anything. After all, they were here to ask for a favor. "Old Qin, Brother Qin, I'm really sorry." Xue Jiehua quickly responded to his calling by walking over quickly. In Rivertown, not many people were qualified for him to greet them personally. Old Qin was exceptional. Qin family was much more influential than Xue family. Hence, he did not dare to be a poor host. "I'm really sorry. Just now, I met my benefactor. So I had to greet him personally." Xue Jiehua explained with apologies. "Oh? A benefactor?" The middle-aged man looked at the figure in front of him with curiosity. "Never mind, I heard that old Xue not only regained his health, but he also made some improvements. I'm here to check on him." Old Qin shook his cane, not minding at all. "Sure, Old Qin. My father is waiting inside. This way, please." Xue Jiehua looked at the little boy in the arms of the middle-aged man. Naturally, he knew the purpose of Old Qin to come personally over here. Hence, he quickly led the way. Summer Sun Resort is quite a posh place. An usher was leading in front of him as Wang Xian observed the surroundings with slight surprise. The entire resort was luxurious, surrounded by rockery, streams, and a few trails. There were streams of crystal-clear water on both sides of the road with a myriad of fish swimming in it. Refined and posh-looking housing could be found ahead. Summer Sun Resort was situated near the sea. He could vaguely see the beach that was full of various activities like surfing. Not only that, there was a small restaurant on the sea with several tourists having their beverages. Surrounding the resorts were tall trees which made the place beautiful. There were some ponds with crystal-clear water too. The entire place was relaxing, and the environment was elegant. It's a 5-star resort indeed. The environment is really awesome, Wang Xian exclaimed softly. Sir, if you are waiting for your friends, you can rest in the waiting area for the time being. The usher brought Wang Xian to a waiting area. Chapter 50, Treatment. Wang Xian sat at the waiting area within Summer Sun Resort and the usher brought him a cup of water. He gave Guan Shuqing a call and informed her about it. Moreover, she hadn't left her house. Wang Xian took out his phone and started playing to kill his boredom. Big brother Wang Xian. At this moment, a voice sounded. Under the astonishment looks of the ushers in the surrounding, their young boss was running towards a young man. Ha! Wang Xian lifted his head and saw Xue Jing running towards him. He smiled and thought that Xue Jing was probably here under orders of his father. Big brother, why didn't you let me know that you are coming? I would have come to pick you up at the entrance, Xue Jing ran over passionately and said. A friend invited me here so I didn't disturb you. Wang Xian smiled and answered Xue Jing. As the other party was so zealous and warm to him, he naturally would treat him with sincerity. You aren't disturbing me. Not at all. I happen to be here anyway. Xue Jing laughed as he walked. Big brother, are you waiting for someone? Yeah, I'm waiting for someone. Wang Xian nodded his head. Big brother, why don't I bring you around for a tour since you are free now? Moreover, my grandfather has asked me to thank you again. Since my grandfather was treated by you, he has made a breakthrough in his cultivation level, Xue Jing said with gratitude. Really? In that case, I'll have to congratulate old Xue. Wang Xian nodded his head with astonishment. Dragon energy was a top-grade type of energy. While treating old Xue's injuries, he also strengthened his heart. This was what allowed him to achieve the breakthrough. Big brother, let me bring you around for a tour. I'm guessing this is your first time here at our Summer Sun Resort. Let me introduce you to the various sites. Xue Jing asked. Alright, I'll be troubling you then. Wang Xian hesitated before nodding his head. Not at all. Xue Jing shook his head, stood up and led the way immediately. This resort is pretty good and the area is pretty big, Wang Xian remarked while following behind Xue Jing and listening to his explanation. This resort of ours is the largest in the entire province. Our Xue family invested $1 billion to build it in the past. Currently, our Xue family are relying on this resort and the 5-star hotel in the city center, Xue Jing explained. Wang Xian nodded his head. Looking at this, Xue family's assets should be at least $1 billion. There were many rich people in the country and many of these rich people were not known as they kept a low profile. Xue family could be considered as a family that kept a rather low profile. They didn't have a lot of properties but their properties weren't small. The scenery by the seaside was extremely beautiful after modification. The resort houses in the vicinity were all luxurious and exquisite. Large trees and a clean swimming pool. There were various kinds of entertainment. The restaurant by the sea was a great place to go to in the resort. When winter came, there would even be a hot spring. This place was great for tours for all seasons in a year. Big brother, would you like to go to the room at the side to take a break? My father and grandfather are both here today. If it's convenient for you, let's have lunch together today. The Xue family would like to make Wang Xian a friend. Xue Jing had also witnessed his strength and therefore tried to invite him and make him closer with them. Wang Xian also knew about the thoughts of Xue Jing and the Xue family. Even though the other party wanted him as a friend, he wasn't against the idea. To him, there were still a lot of benefits from getting to know an additional friend. Sure, my friend hasn't arrived yet. However, let's talk about lunch again later. If I have the time, I will definitely agree to it. Wang Xian nodded his head. Alright, big brother Wang Xian, this way please. Excitement flashed past Xue Jing's eyes as he replied quickly. Big brother Wang Xian, the two most luxurious rooms of our resorts are here. One of them is this and the other just beside. You can come over directly with your family membership card. Xue Jing pointed at the two luxurious rooms as he explained. Wang Xian looked over and nodded his head. After which, he walked into one of the luxurious rooms. Within the room, Xue Jiehua was sitting in the main hall with a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was smoking and had a worried look on him. Brother Wang Xian. When Xue Jiehua saw Wang Xian walk in, he was filled with surprise. He stood up immediately and went over to welcome him. Mr. Xue, please take a seat. Wang Xian replied immediately. Come, come. Xue Jiehua smiled and nodded his head. He immediately took the teacup from the table, poured tea in it and passed it to Wang Xian personally. Brother Wang Xian, take a seat too. Sorry for disturbing Mr. Xue. Wang Xian nodded his head. He felt a little weird about his enthusiasm as he sat down. Not at all, not at all. Xue Jiehua waved his hand immediately. Authentic Longjing tea, have a try. I won't stand on ceremony then. Wang Xian nodded his head. The middle-aged man by the side looked at Wang Xian with surprise. This was the second time he saw Wang Xian. He met him for the first time at the entrance and Xue Jiehua left them aside just to greet this young man. Xue Jiehua even poured him tea personally and addressed him with deference. Even when facing his own father, he had never been so enthusiastic. He looked over inquisitively. Wah, wah, wah. At this moment, the crying sounds of a child propagated over. Soon after, a guy with his upper body naked ran out of the room. Little kite, don't run. Grandpa will bring you out to play. Let's go. Behind him, an old man with a walking stick walked out and called to the little guy. Dad, so itchy and pain. The little guy looked at his father and ran over with tears all over his face. It's all right, everything will be fine soon, my son. The middle-aged man carried the little guy, patted his back and was consoling him. Wang Xian looked at the small boy inquisitively. He noticed that his entire body was strangely red. Brother Wang Xian, you are here. Old Xue walked out of the room and saw Wang Xian. He had a shocked expression as he quickly made his way over. Old Xue, sorry for bothering you. Wang Xian nodded at Xue Liangren. Clearly, he didn't know that Wang Xian had come. Father, we happened to meet while fetching old Qin previously. Therefore, I asked Xue Jing to go and receive him. Xue Jiehua stood up, walked to his father's side and spoke softly. Xue Liangren's eyes lit up. Wah, wah. Dad, so hot, so hot. Let's go swimming, swimming. The crying sounds of that little boy sounded once again. He choked for a moment but soon started crying loudly again. Wang Xian's attention was once again attracted by that little boy. He frowned and hesitated before extending his hand over. Hey pal, come and let brother take a look. Ha! When the middle-aged man heard Wang Xian, he frowned. Old Qin, who had a walking stick with him, looked at Wang Xian with doubts on his face. However, Xue Liangren was stunned. He commented immediately, quick. Xiao Qin, come and let brother Wang Xian take a look. When the middle-aged man heard old Xue, he was slightly shocked and turned to his father. Old Qin also looked at old Xue in surprise. However, old Xue wasn't paying attention as he introduced the little one to Wang Xian. Brother Wang Xia, little kite is old Qin's grandson. He has a congenital illness and the symptoms are really strange. Currently, we can only use internal energy to alleviate the effects of the illness. Why don't you take a look at it? Chapter 51, Making Friends. Old Xue, who is this young chap? Seeing that old Xue was ignoring him, old Xue knit his brows slightly. He walked over and asked the question softly when he saw Wang Xian reach out to touch his grandson. A young expert. Old Xue paused before he uttered the words to old Qin. Old Qin was slightly stunned. A young expert? The term coming out from old Shui was extremely unusual given that his strength was ranked top 5 in Rivertown. Moreover, he had made a breakthrough in his strength too. As such, he looked at the juvenile with surprise. Wang Xian found out about the little boy's condition after he injected some dragon energy into his body. There was something congenital growing in his right kidney, and it connected his kidneys together. This caused kidney failure for the little boy. Just now, old Shui must have been using his internal energy to nourish him so as to alleviate the problem. However, this was not a long-term solution, and it did not resolve the root problem. I can remove it with my dragon energy, but it would consume 50 to 60 points. Wang Xian pondered to himself as he lifted his chin to look at the two elders. Wang Xian, can you treat the grandson of old Qin? Young chap, any ways to do it? The two elders asked Wang Xian quickly. Old Qin, in particular, was looking forward to his answer. Wang Xian nodded slowly. Yes, there is a way. Really, can you really cure my grandson's disease? Upon hearing Wang Xian, the hand that was holding on to the cane was trembling as old Qin asked once again in disbelief. Master, you can save my son. The middle-aged man stood up suddenly and said in excitement. Yes, I can do it now. Wang Xian nodded. So long as you can cure him, the entire Qin family would be grateful to you. I hope you can save my grandson. Old Qin's cheeks blushed slightly as he clenched his cane tightly when he heard Wang Xian. Sure. Wang Xian stroked the head of the little fellow and said, let's go. I'll cure your disease. Brother, can you really cure me? The little fellow was looking at him as his eyes got redder. Yes, of course. It will be done in a while. Wang Xian smiled and carried him up. 10 minutes. Just give me 10 minutes. Wang Xian, you can use this room. Will not disturb you, old Shui said hurriedly. Okay. Wang Xian nodded and carried the little boy into the room. The little boy was obedient as he stared blankly at Wang Xian. He was looking forward to it with his glimmering eyes. Wang Xian entered the room because he wanted to avoid setting the world on fire since getting the little boy fixed only took a few seconds. He had to stay under the radar. After all, he had yet to become invincible. Old Shui, can he really do it? Old Qin watched as Wang Xian carried his grandson into the room. Then he turned to old Shui and uttered words that do not hang together. If he said he can, old Shui confidently nodded. He looked at old Qin. Old Qin, your luck is good today since you managed to meet Wang Xian. Relax, am I not looking good now? Old Shui spoke with a smile on his face. Old Qin was slightly stunned by his words. He stared with his eyes wide open. Old Shui, are you saying that your injury was? Old Qin smiled and nodded. Old Qin had a change in his expression. He looked to that room with great surprise. Apart from him, everyone in the Rivertown knew about old Shui. He had sustained severe injuries and visited many doctors for them. But, it was pronounced that he could not live for more than 2 years. Everyone in Rivertown thought the Shui family would eventually fall, but no one expected that the old master of the Shui family would recover and make improvements in his strength. This surprised everyone. When old Qin heard about this, he brought his grandson to old Shui so that he could help to alleviate the illness. Never did he expect that he would have such an amazing encounter. Kite has hope, Dad. Kite has hope. The middle-aged man at the side was overjoyed at their unexpected good fortune. He was so happy that he acted like a kid. The eyes of old Qin were full of thrills as he nodded slowly. The entire Qin family had worked painstakingly hard for their only grandson. Finally, they were relieved of it. Old Shui, how did you repay him back then? Old Qin looked at old Shui hesitantly and consulted him. Repay? Old Shui smiled. Back then, it was a coincidence. My grandson, Xiao Jing, offended Wang Xian accidentally. So, I gave him $10 million as compensation. However, Wang Xian was kind-hearted. He took the money as my medical fees. This, old Qin was stupefied. How could such a good thing happen? Wang Xian is a kind-hearted person. Treat someone with sincerity, and naturally, the other party will return the favor. Old Qin, you can give them a sum of money with some sincerity, old Shui pondered and said. Thank you, old Shui. If you need any help, please let me know. Old Qin nodded his head and spoke to old Shui gratefully. Sure. Old Shui was taken aback by surprise. The Qin family might not come from the background of an ancient martial artist family, but they had the most robust backings, even from the government. Even the ancient martial artist families would not dare to offend the Qin family. Brother, you're awesome. I'm not feeling sick anymore. A kiddish voice interrupted the people in the living room. Old Qin and the middle-aged man spun around and saw the smiling little kite. His cheeks were rosy as he pulled Wang Xian's hand and walked out of the room happily. Little kite. The old man and the middle-aged man walked over quickly with faces full of surprises. Grandpa, Dad, bring me out. I want to go swimming. The little boy grinned as he spoke. Sure. Sure. The middle-aged man carried the little boy in his arms and kissed him hard on the cheek. Standing at the side, tears welled up in old Qin's eyes. His grandson's health had always been a load on his mind. Wang Xian, thank you for saving my grandson. Thank you. Old Qin looked at Wang Xian and bowed to him. You're welcome. He is cute too. Wang Xian laughed and shook his head. When he was treating the kid with his dragon energy, he accidentally obtained a thing from the stuff the kid spat out. It was a total surprise to him. Brother, I'm handsome, not cute, the little boy turned to him and said. Thank him now, the middle-aged man told little kite. His son was born when he was in his mid-years. His greatest wish was to see his son growing up healthily. Thank you, brother. The little boy grinned. Wang Xian, these are the medical fees for my grandson. It's not a lot, but it is a token of my appreciation. The PIN number is the last 6 digits behind the card. Old Qin took out a card that he just prepared and handed it respectfully to Wang Xian. I, Qin Guohui, have some power in Rivertown. If you need any help in the future, you can call me directly. It is never enough to repay you for treating my grandson. I'll keep the money as the cost of treatment. You don't have to take the rest seriously. Wang Xian took the card with a smile. Firstly, the boy was cute and well-behaved. Secondly, he did this for the money. He was only left with $5 million. It was nothing less, but not a lot. Hence, he depleted some of his dragon energy just to treat the boy. Besides, he could make some friends and build his network. At the same time, he obtained a treasure unexpectedly. This deal was a profitable deal to him. Chapter 52, We Fight, 1. Wang Xian, where's your hometown? This is still the first time I've known someone as powerful as you are in Rivertown. Old Qin, you're really humble. I'm not as powerful as you might think. It's just some simple medical techniques. I was from Pengzhou. If there aren't any accidents, I might very well stay in Rivertown for a long period. Hee hee. If your medical techniques were simple, there wouldn't be any great techniques. Sacred Followers Guild and disciples of the medical saint aren't as great as their reputation would suggest. Wang Xian is indeed great in this. For my son's illness, I have consulted almost all the hospitals from the north to the south. A doctor typically has a kind heart. The reason why Brother Wang Xian has such extraordinary medical techniques has very much to do with his young chivalrous heart. You guys are praising me to the skies. I'm just 20 years old and couldn't take all these compliments. Otherwise, I'll get arrogant. Wang Xian was chatting with old Qin and old Shui in the living room. Shui Jiehua and old Qin's son had the intention to get on the good books of Wang Xian as they went along with the conversation. As for Shui Jing, he had nothing to contribute at all, nor did he dare to interrupt. All he did was to pour tea for others and laugh along. For old Qin and old Shui, they were in an authoritative position with extraordinary backgrounds. They naturally had an aura around them. As for Wang Xian, he wasn't uncomfortable while chatting easily with old Shui and old Qin, as he had the disposition of the divine dragon. Shui Jiahua and the middle-aged man were a little surprised that Wang Xian was able to chat carefreely with their fathers at such a young age. This was something that they couldn't do themselves. Among the younger generation in Rivertown, there was no one that could be compared with him. I heard from Xiaojing that Wang Xian is now operating a restaurant. May I know where is it located so I can go and get some food when we are free? Hee, laughed old Shui. I bought over an operating restaurant. It's in the vicinity of the University of Rivertown. I believe old Shui and old Qin might have heard of it before. It's called First Grade Restaurant. Wang Xian replied. Oh? First Grade Restaurant? I would have never thought that brother Wang Xian has bought over First Grade Restaurant. This restaurant is rather famous in Rivertown. In that case, we will pay you a visit when we have the time. Old Qin remarked with a tinge of surprise. Sure, not a problem. You'll be more than welcome. When you guys are coming, remember to give me a notice in advance so I can make some preparations for you. Wang Xian laughed. Great. Great. Old Shui and old Qin nodded their heads. They were naturally happy that they were able to make friends with an extraordinary person like Wang Xian. As for Wang Xian, he had a good impression of old Shui and old Qin. One could tell the qualities of another person by the way they spoke and behaved. Moreover, he had a joyous chat with them too. Oh right. Brother Wang Xian, I'll be hosting a banquet tonight. At that time, there will be many elites of Rivertown. If you are free, do join us. Old Qin invited him all of a sudden. I don't really know anyone so I guess I'll not be going. Wang Xian was taken aback slightly and shook his head. It's enough to just know these two old men right here. At that time, old Shui would bring his family along too. Since brother Wang Xian would like to grow in Rivertown, it would still be beneficial to get to know more people. Old Qin smiled. All right. Wang Xian hesitated for a while before nodding his head. All right. Do you want to have lunch with us in the afternoon? Suggested old Qin. This might not be possible, Wang Xian replied apologetically. I came over here to look around while I was waiting for a friend. It might not be possible in a while. As he spoke, his phone in his pocket suddenly rang. Since brother Wang Xian has things to attend to, just go ahead. We will be fine. Let's go to your restaurant for a meal when I've arranged a time with old Qin. Old Shui smiled and said. Yeah, go ahead and attend to your matters. Wang Xian smiled and turned on his phone. It was a message from Guan Shuqing. After reading the message, Wang Xian looked at them. Old Qin, old Shui. My friend has just sent me a message so I have to rush over. Sorry about that. It's fine. Just go. Let's have a chat again when you are free. Wang Xian nodded his head and headed out. Big brother, let me send you over. I'm familiar with the place. Where is your friend currently? Shui Jing came over and asked him directly. Sea Cloud Pavilion 101 Private Lounge. It's near the sea. Wang Xian looked at Shui Jing and said. All right. Big brother, please follow me. Shui Jing smiled and went ahead to lead the way. Along the beach, there was a row of tree houses. It was neatly arranged and looked extremely beautiful. Big brother, this is our Sea Cloud Pavilion 101 Private Lounge. Shui Jing pointed to a small tree house. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head, took out his phone and gave Guan Shuqing a call. Creak. Soon, the door to the private lounge opened. Guan Shuqing, who was wearing a short-sleeve white shirt and black casual shorts, walked out from the room. Wang Xian. Guan Shuqing's expression didn't seem fine. When she saw Wang Xian, she forced a faint smile on her face. What happened? Wang Xian asked, concerned upon seeing her unusual self. Not. Nothing. Guan Shuqing shook her head and said apologetically, it might be tough on you in a while. It's all my fault. What happened? Wang Xian frowned. What's the matter, Beauty Guan? Invite your boyfriend in. At this moment, an impatient male voice sounded from the room. Guan Shuqing's expression changed slightly. Let's go in. Wang Xian lifted one of his eyebrows. He walked beside Guan Shuqing and patted her softly on her back. Guan Shuqing felt a stream of warmth in her eyes. With shimmering eyes, she looked at him. After hesitating for just a moment, she extended her arms over and wrapped them over his arm. Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat and the edge of his mouth arched up. He walked into the room with a face of smiles with Guan Shuqing. When he entered the room, Wang Xian saw 4 young men and 3 young girls sitting in the room. When the man sitting by the entrance saw Guan Shuqing come in with Wang Xian with her arms around his, gloominess flashed in his eyes. Hello, everyone. Wang Xian smiled at them. The 4 young men in the room started scrutinizing him without reserve. Wang Xian. Suddenly, one of the girls had a shocked expression and exclaimed out loud. Mayor, you know him? The young man beside the girl asked in bewilderment. Of course, we are classmates. The girl whose name was Mayor clung on to the young man while revealing a deep cleavage to him. She then added, just a poor brat and student in the school. Is it? When the young man heard her reply, he was a little surprised. Of course. Mayor nodded her head. She turned to Wang Xian with a mocking smile and asked, Isn't it Wang Xian? Wang Xian smiled and shrugged his shoulders. Disdain flashed in his eyes as he remarked, Su Mayor is indeed true to the rumors spreading within the school. As he spoke, he sat down in one of the chairs by the side without fear. What do you mean by that? Su Mayor was triggered suddenly and stared at him with outrage. I mean nothing. What did I just say? Wang Xian maintained his smile while replying. Su Mayor was known to be flirtatious in school and changed her boyfriend frequently. Moreover, her boyfriends were all guys from a rich family. Who would have expected her to cling on to a young man outside of school at this moment? Lad, you're pretty arrogant to insult my girlfriend the moment you came in, the young man in front of Su Mayor said coldly. Did I? In that case, is her calling me a poor guy an insult? Wang Xian smiled. What I've said is the truth. Su Mayor exclaimed angrily at him. Did I tell a lie then? Wang Xian spoke plainly to Su Mayor. He leaned back in the chair nonchalantly and looked at all the people around him. When he saw Guan Shuqing's embarrassed look previously, he knew that she must have been treated unfairly but didn't dare to retort. In that case, he had no intention or need to be respectful and polite to the people in the room. Let's just be arrogant then. Chapter 53, We Fight Too. Lad, you're quite arrogant. But I'm not sure if you're fit to talk big. With a cigarette in his hand, a young man in the center was staring at Wang Xian impassively upon seeing Wang Xian's attitude. A poor schoolboy is such an arrogance. What a courageous fool. Guan Shuqing, what a good boyfriend you've got. The young man beside Su Mayor jeered as he looked at Guan Shuqing. Shuqing, is this your taste? Wu Chen, who was sitting beside Guan Shuqing, was staring coldly at Wang Xian with a ferocious look in his eyes. Guan Shuqing was looking pale. She thought it was only her and Wu Chen today, and she was not expecting him to call his friends. That ruined her plan completely. In particular, those friends of Wu Chen were all from affluent families in the river town. The young man sitting in the center, especially, had an even more daunting background and status. Any one of them in the room was not someone Wang Xian could mess around with. Suddenly, she regretted. What if this bunch of people decided to hurt Wang Xian because of her? Guan Shuqing stretched out her hand and tugged at Wang Xian's arm. Sensing the palm under the table, Wang Xian held her hand and gave her an assuring smile. Guan Shuqing went stiff as she felt touched, and at the same time, worried too. She has great taste. Wang Xian smiled and turned around to look at Wu Chen. He observed him from head to toe. At least, I'm more handsome than you. Humph. On hearing his words, Wu Chen banged the table with his hand. He stared at Wang Xian. Lad, I'm telling you to leave Shuqing now. Otherwise, there will be a corpse found in the Bohai Sea. You're in way over your head. You can't even estimate your capability. Su Meier jeered at Wang Xian on hearing what he said to Wu Chen. You guys are awesome since you're asking for my life without any reason. What a great society. Since you're a well-known figure in society, why don't you introduce yourself? Wang Xian turned cold as he heard Wu Chen. Subsequently, he laughed. Remember, my name is Wu Chen, the heir to the Wu's group. Wu Chen answered Wang Xian emotionlessly. Gong family in Rivertown, the young man next to Su Meier said with a smile. Song family in Rivertown. Another young man spoke smilingly. The young man in the middle chuckled, I'm Bai Shuming, you can find out about me yourself. Wu's group, Gong family, Song family, another one gave me a name to find out myself. You guys are awesome. Wang Xian placed his hand slowly on the table while staring at the four of them with a beaming face. Xiao Xian, don't act recklessly. Upon seeing Wang Xian's action, Guan Shuqing hurriedly whispered in his ears. She was afraid that Wang Xian would get into conflict with the rest of the people whom she treated with care even before her family went bankrupt. I told you to look for me when you have any difficulties. Don't worry. I'll be fine. Wang Xian consoled her softly and looked at the rest. I don't seem to have any conflicts with any one of you, right? Oh, if there is, it would only be with you, said Wang Xian, looking at Wu Chen. Are you having cold feet? We don't need conflicts. We just hate you. Sitting in the middle of the room, Bai Shuming looked at Wang Xian mockingly. To be honest, thrashing people like you is not fun at all. But, you're too arrogant. Here, drink these 2 bottles of liquor up and get lost. Lad, get out of this city. If I see you again, you'll bear the consequences, said Wu Chen while glaring at Wang Xian. He then turned to Guan Shuqing. Your father asked you to marry me, so don't try to be funny with me. If I find out you have other boyfriends, your father will teach you a lesson. Humph. What a brag. Don't you even look at yourself in the mirror, said Su Meier disdainfully to Wang Xian. Her eyes were beaming with joy from the misfortunes of others. You guys can't do this. When Guan Shuqing looked at them, she was full of regret. If only she knew, she would not have asked Xiao Xian to come. It was all her fault. Guan Shuqing, if you want to find someone to annoy me, you should at least get someone capable of doing so. Wu Chen looked at Guan Shuqing coldly. Hee, you guys are indeed from the wealthy families. So stylish. Wang Xian looked at them and drew his lips slowly. This situation seemed to have happened before. In particular, the 2 bottles of liquor in front of him. Wang Xian took out his phone and stood up slowly as he was calling Xue Jing. Hey, big brother, what's the matter? At this moment, Xue Jing was in a kitchen not far away. He was asking the chefs to whip up some signature dishes for Wang Xian. Someone asked me to find out about him. His name is Bai Shuming, Wang Xian asked with a smile. Bai Shuming? Xue Jing paused slightly. He should be from the Bai family, one of the ancient martial artist families in the Rivertown. According to the ranking, they should be in 6th place, slightly weaker than us, but not too bad. Oh, got it. I may break a few things. You've got to come and settle it later. Wang Xian hung up the phone after he finished his words. On the other side, Xue Jing froze before he screamed, Gosh, big brother is having a fight. Who the hell dares to provoke my big brother? You're not that stupid since you know how to find out about me from someone else. Bai Shuming was slightly taken aback when Wang Xian picked up his phone. When he overheard what he said, he chuckled. Okay, I got your information. Wang Xian revealed a smile on his face as he reached for a bottle of liquor. Well, so now you know who you're messing with? Wu Chen was showing a face full of sarcasm as Wang Xian picked up the bottle of liquor. Xiao Xian. Guan Shuqing grabbed on Wang Xian's arm hastily. Wang Xian shook his head and said, "It's all right. I haven't experienced this for very long. Last time, it was for my sister." A smile surfaced on Wang Xian's face. 2 years ago, he was busy with his school work during the last year of high school. His younger sister was afraid that his studies might get affected, so she went to work in a pub to make some money. When he found out that someone bullied his sister, he ran over. The situation was similar to this. The other party wanted him to finish a box of wine before he could take his sister away. In the end, he reached out his hand. In the past, it was for his sister. Today, it was for another girl. In the past, he had nothing except his enthusiasm and boldness. Now, everyone watched in horror when Wang Xian grabbed the bottle of liquor and slammed hard on Bai Xiuming. His strength was so mighty that no one could dodge the blow unless they were level 7 martial artists. Not to mention, it was a sudden attack. Bai Xiuming, the young generation of Bai family, was not any better than Shui Jing. Bam! Upon seeing the bottle coming at him, Bai Xiuming could only react out of his instinct by blocking it with his arm. Ah! Bai Xiuming let out a devastating scream as his arm was shaking from the sharp pain. Wu Group, Gong Family, Song Family, Bai Xiuming. Speak no more and just fight the hell out. Wang Xian flipped the table with his hand and sent his kick towards Wu Chen. If we can't talk it out, we fight. Chapter 54, Crippled. If we can't talk it out, we fight. Let's fight. Wang Xian had his own principles and bottom line. In the past, as long as there was anyone who dared to bully his sister, he wouldn't care who the other party was. He would just fight it out. Throughout primary school, middle school and high school, he was more resolute and brave than most kids, as he was a kid without parents. He knew deeply that only by becoming stronger could he stop others from bullying him. Therefore, as long as there were people who bullied his sister during primary school, middle school or high school, he wouldn't care about the age of these people. He would just risk his life and fight them. 2 fights in middle school deterred anyone from bullying his sister. 3 fights in middle school stopped anyone in the high school from bullying his sister. And a fight outside the bar at that time made all the gangsters in the county wary of disturbing his sister. To those who dared to bully people he wanted to protect, Wang Xian would not waste his words on them. He never had much to say and would just fight it out. In the past, he relied on adrenaline and disregarding dangers to his life. As for now, he could rely on his personal strength. Moreover, Bai Xiuming, who had the strongest background in the room, was still weaker than Shui family. Therefore, he could strike without being fearful of anything. Bam! How dare you hit me? You are dead this time. Bam! Arg! My leg is broken, my leg is broken. Don't hit me. Arg! You are crazy. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. Bam! Wang Xian didn't say anything when he struck. He didn't like to speak while fighting as this would disrupt his flow of actions. Therefore, in less than 10 seconds, the other 3 young men were already lying on the floor of the room. They had food scattered all over them as they wailed in agony on the floor. This was still considering the fact that Wang Xian had controlled his strength. Otherwise, they would have been dead. How dare you hit me? How dare you ambush me? Bai Xiuming stared at Wang Xian and his body was shaking in anger. He had a hideous expression on him as he stood up and his eyes were bloodshot. I'm going to kill you. Hee hee. Wang Xian took a glance at Bai Xiuming and mocked, just you. You are still too weak. As he completed his sentence, he saw a bottle of white wine by his feet. He lowered his body and picked it up. Die! Seeing Wang Xian pick up the bottle of white wine, his eyes twitched violently as he jumped. He lifted his legs and kicked towards Wang Xian violently. Bam! However, the bottle of white wine was smashed ruthlessly on his right leg, making him shriek in pain. Arg! Bai Shuming fell to the floor while wailing in agony. His right leg had been broken. Bam! Wang Xian heard his scream. He kicked impatiently at him and knocked him unconscious directly. Wang Xian, how dare! How dare you hit them? You must be eager to die, Su Meier, who had been staying by the side, shrieked in horror. Wang Xian looked over coldly. Xiao Xia, you! How could you start the fight? It's over, Xiao Xian. Guan Shuqing saw Wang Xian strike without warning. Moreover, he even broke their arms and legs. Her heart started beating violently as worries filled her and her eyes turned red with tears. Big brother! Fuck! Who the hell dares to offend my big brother? At this moment, Xue Jing had arrived. Seeing the mess and the four young men lying on the floor, he turned to Wang Xian and asked, Big brother, are you alright? I'm fine. Do I look like I'm not? Laughed Wang Xian. That's true. Big brother is so powerful, chuckled Xue Jing. He turned his attention to the four young men on the floor and a violent light flashed in his eyes. Damn it! How dare you offend big brother? As he spoke, he walked straight into the room, pulled them by their clothes and threw them on the floor. Sorry to trouble you, Wang Xian saw the mess in the room and said. Big brother, not at all. Xue Jing quickly shook his head. He looked at the four young men on the floor and said, he is from Bai family and this must be Gong Luyan from Gong family. Damn it! They must be too eager to die. Big brother, you are too lenient on them. As he finished his sentence, he kicked consecutively at the arms of the four men under the horrified eyes of Guan Shuqing and the other three girls. Crack, 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 crack. The sounds of bones breaking propagated over. Xue Jing didn't hold back at all and crippled the arms of the four young men. Arg! The intense pain jerked them awake as they held on to their arms in anguish. TSK. This is just a small lesson to you guys. Xue Jing sneered. He had witnessed Wang Xian's strength. Because of his provocation, he almost died from a single kick of Wang Xian. Based on what his father had told him, if Wang Xian had not stepped in to help, he would have been crippled. Therefore, when he saw that the injuries on the four young men weren't that serious, he piled on their injuries smartly to appease big brother Wang Xian. Director Xue. At this moment, 7 to 8 security personnel of the Summer Sun Resort had rushed over. When they saw Xue Jing, they quickly greeted him. Call for an ambulance and send them away. Xue Jing instructed coldly. Yes, Director Xue. The security personnel nodded their heads. And the four of you, get out of here. Xue Jing looked at the girls and shouted. Su Meier and the other two girls were stunned and looked at Xue Jing in horror. Guan Shuqing was also a little shocked as she shrank her body instinctively and hid behind Wang Xian in fear. This is a friend of mine. Wang Xian patted on Guan Shuqing's shoulders and said to Xue Jing. Xue Jing's body shivered. When he saw Wang Xian's actions, he immediately said to Guan Shuqing, I'm sorry, sister-in-law. It's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Guan Shuqing was a little overwhelmed at this point. Big brother, it would seem like you haven't gotten your lunch yet. Why don't I inform my grandfather and let's have lunch together? Xue Jing asked with a faint smile. Wang Xian hesitated for a while and looked to Guan Shuqing. Have you eaten? Wanna join us for lunch? Guan Shuqing nodded her head vaguely but quickly added, Xiao Xian. Those guys that you beat up had very strong backgrounds. Rest assured. It will be fine. Wang Xian shook his head at Guan Shuqing and smiled. If you encounter any difficulties in the future, just tell me. If anyone bullies you, I'll beat him up for you. Guan Shuqing looked at Wang Xian, gripped onto the edge of her clothes and replied, Thank you, Xiao Xian. He. Wang Xian stared at her and smiled. That. Do you mean what you said last night? See your performance. Hee hee. When Wang Xian saw Guan Shuqing's reaction, he had a resolve. He knew that he had fallen for this girl. When he saw her being treated unfairly and fought for her, he knew that the number of people he wished to protect had increased by one. Big brother Wang Xian, please go to this private lounge. My grandfather and old Qin would be there soon. Let's go and wait in the private lounge. Xue Jing said. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head and said to Guan Shuqing, who was beside him, let's go. We will be having lunch with some friends in a while. Guan Shuqing nodded her head and took another look at the four young men moaning in anguish. Just a while ago, Wu Chen had looked at her arrogantly and told her that she would be his wife in the future and that she had to listen to everything he said. The few other young men around Wu Chen were all looking at her and mocking her about her family's bankruptcy and that she shouldn't think too highly of herself. At this moment, they were all lying on the floor. Chapter 55, Dragon Ball. I heard you just punched a few ignorant lads who offended your companion out of anger. Wang Xian and Guan Shuqing were sitting at a table in the room, chatting when old Xue and old Qin walked in. Following behind them were Xue Jiehua, the son of old Qin and little Kite. Old Xue spoke with a smile as he swept his glance across Guan Shuqing. Hee hee, those few guys were too braggy. They said they were from the Gong, Song, Bai family, and they even threatened me. I can't hold my fists, Wang Xian said with a smile. Those affluent younger generations. It's good for you to teach them a lesson on behalf of their families, old Xue said with no importance. Yes, I didn't manage to hold back in time. Wang Xian chuckled. So good to be young. Old Qin said with a little envy. Come, take a seat. Old Xue laughed. Wang Xian, aren't you going to introduce your confidant? Wang Xian smiled and looked at Guan Shuqing. This is my classmate, Guan Shuqing. Then he turned to Guan Shuqing and continued, this is old Qin and old Xue. Hello, old Qin and old Xue. Guan Shuqing hurriedly greeted them as she was slightly taken aback by surprise when she saw Wang Xian having conversations with two extraordinary elders. Well, she's quite pretty. Old Qin smiled. Guan Shuqing. Do you know Guan Shuqing, the middle-aged man who was carrying little Kite asked suddenly. He's my father. Do you know him? Guan Shuqing looked puzzled at the middle-aged man. I heard about him. The middle-aged man smiled. Oh? Old Qin looked at his son with question marks on his face. Dad, we'll talk about it after dinner, the middle-aged man smiled and said. All right. Old Qin did not probe into it and continued his chat with Wang Xian and old Xue. The lunch took over an hour. Wang Xian and Guan Shuqing left the place after making a promise to attend the dinner event that night. Dad! Gazing at the back view of Guan Shuqing, the middle-aged man slightly frowned and continued, Guan Shuqing's father went bankrupt. What exactly is going on? Asked old Qin with his eyebrows slightly raised. Guan Shuqing was in the medical equipment business. This year, his vendor encountered some problems and landed him in hot soup. Eventually, he went bankrupt because of this. Her father came to me for help some time ago, but I turned him down, said the middle-aged man. Oh, really? Old Qin pondered. Invite Guan Shuqing to the dinner tonight. Yes, father. The middle-aged man nodded as he understood his father's intention. Guan Shuqing really has a good daughter. The middle-aged man pondered to himself. Tonight, 3 of us are going to disturb old Qin. Old Xue was wearing smiles on his face. He had a small family with only 3 of them practicing martial arts. During the early days, it was Xue Liangren who supported the family. Luckily, his son and his grandson did not disappoint him. They had great talents in martial arts. Hence, they could make a name in the river town. A while ago, some of the people were ready for some trouble when he was injured. This time, he was going to announce the return of Shui family along with his son and grandson. They were still the old Shui family and could only be stronger than ever. Where are we going? Should we stay here? After coming out of the room, Wang Xian looked and asked Guan Shuqing, who was next to him. No. Guan Shuqing shook her head and gazed at him. Wang Xian beamed and looked at Guan Shuqing. When they exchanged gazes, Guan Shuqing turned her head away. Xiao Xian, will they be okay after you beat them up? Don't worry. Didn't you meet old Shui just now? It's his property here. Those Bai and Gong family, and Wu's group didn't even dare to provoke them. Besides, the one who broke the arm of that young man was old Shui's grandson, Wang Xian said confidently. You can't underestimate me. I also know one or two formidable people. But, I'm not afraid of them even if I'm alone. Guan Shuqing was stunned as she looked blankly at Wang Xian. He had brought too much surprise to her such that she was getting mystified by him. But soon, Guan Shuqing smiled and said, yesterday's agreement is still valid. Wang Xian drew his lips slightly and looked at Guan Shuqing, you said it. Aha, I said it. Ha, then you will have to prepare yourself for it. Wang Xian was on cloud 9 as he fixed his gaze on the girl before him quietly. She was almost 1.7 meters tall, with long hair down to her shoulders. Her center-parting hairstyle was only suitable for a goddess like her. The simplistic and monochrome dressing made her look cool and fit her innocent and good figure. Sensing Wang Xian staring at her, Guan Shuqing chuckled and spun her body around. Let's go back to the restaurant. I need to work so that I'm not taking the salary for granted. Sure, the boss will send you over. Wang Xian laughed cheekily. They came to the entrance, and Wang Xian drove her back to the first-grade restaurant. Guan Shuqing hugged Wang Xian at his waist as she sat on the back seat. With a smiling face, she sniffed the fragrance from his body and leaned gently on his back. Boss! Manager Huang greeted them as soon as he saw Wang Xian and Guan Shuqing walking into the restaurant. Wang Xian nodded and returned to his office with Guan Shuqing. Manager Huang was sensible to walk out of the office. I will continue with my data. Guan Shuqing sat down and continued to analyze her data after finishing her sentence. Wang Xian nodded and returned to his seat. He fished out a ball of flesh that was about a thumb size from his pocket. It was the crystal clear, red, glossy flesh, which had been growing in Little Kite's kidney. Glazed Inferno Crystal, Level 6. Extractable Dragon Energy, 48,338. Superpower, Glazed Inferno. Wang Xian toyed the Glazed Inferno Crystal in his palm as he was deep in his thoughts. The Glazed Inferno Crystal was growing in the Little Kite's body. Once the heat broke out in his body, it would burn him. As time went by, the blazing temperature would get higher and eventually burnt Little Kite to death. In order to suppress the Glazed Inferno, the Qin family had been looking for martial artists to suppress it with their internal energy. However, old Qin was unaware that, while internal energy might have suppressed the Glazed Inferno, it also provided nourishment to the fire and catalyzed its evolution. Hence, old Qin looked for a level 2 martial artist to suppress it in the beginning. Subsequently, he noticed that the internal energy of level 2 martial artist was insufficient. Then he continued to level 3, 4, 5 and 6. Lastly, he found old Shui, who was a level 7 martial artist today. This Glazed Inferno Crystal was upgraded to level 6 through those internal energy from the martial artists. Once the Qin family was unable to find a more advanced martial artist to suppress it, Little Kite would turn to ash immediately when the next relapse happened. Luckily, they met him. I can increase over 40,000 points of dragon energy, but it would be more practical if I can refine it into a dragon ball. Wang Xian did not devour it immediately because he wanted to build a weapon. Basically, divine dragons did not have to use weapons, as their physical bodies were the most formidable weapon of all. However, there was a refining technique of divine dragon weapons in the divine dragon transformation for Dragon Ball. Chapter 56, A Storm in the Banquet, 1. Dragon Balls were weapons unique to the dragon race. Based on their elemental attributes, they would have different Dragon Balls. Dragon Ball of Fire attribute could burn the skies and cook the seas, while the Dragon Ball of Ice attribute could freeze the world. A strong Dragon Ball was sufficient to change an entire world. Wang Xian looked at the glazed Inferno crystal in his hand. He dripped a drop of dragon blood on it before injecting dragon energy into the fire crystal. Soon, he felt a sense of control. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. Through the upgrades used dragon blood and dragon energy, the glazed Inferno crystal started to give off its own glow. The crimson-red glow emitted a scorching hot temperature that could easily burn up a human. With just a change in his thoughts, the Dragon Ball levitated gradually in midair. All Wang Xian had to do was to instruct with his mind and the Dragon Ball would start moving rapidly. Great! Through the nourishment with dragon energy, this dragon energy will only get stronger and stronger in the future. Wang Xian was pleasantly surprised. Even at this very moment, the strength of this Dragon Ball was very horrifying. Its temperature could be 3,000 to 4,000 degrees. An ordinary man would be turned to ashes upon contact with the Fire Dragon Ball. At this moment, even my body couldn't take it head-on and a level 7 martial artist couldn't touch it at all. Wang Xian thought to himself. With another change in thoughts, he kept the Dragon Ball in his body. Great, great! Excitement filled Wang Xian's face. Seeing that Guan Shuqing was still reading the information, he switched on the computer and started playing. Xiao Xian, I'll be heading home. At 5+ in the evening, Guan Shuqing spoke to Wang Xian, who was facing the computer. Are you going back now? Do you need me to send you back? Wang Xian took down his earphones and asked. It's okay. Guan Shuqing shook her head. Let me know if there's anything, Wang Xian said to her. All right. Guan Shuqing smiled, nodded her head and headed out of the restaurant. It's 5+ now. I should get going at 7 p.m. Wang Xian looked at the time. There would be a banquet hosted by Old Qin at Old Shue's 5-star hotel tonight and he would be going over to take a look. When Guan Shuqing got home, her parents asked her to change into an evening gown and follow them to a banquet excitedly. Guan Shuqing was a little surprised by her parents' behavior. Quick! Qin family will be hosting a banquet at Summer Sun International Hotel tonight and they have invited us, her father said agitatedly. Considering the state of her family at this moment, they were not qualified to attend a banquet hosted by the Qin family. However, they had surprisingly received an invitation. If Guan Shuqing's father could get to know some friends in the banquet or get into the good books of Qin family, it would be an easy task for him to make a comeback. Guan Shuqing was taken aback by what she heard from her father. Qin family? Summer Sun International Hotel? This made her recall her lunch with Old Qin and Old Shue at Summer Sun Resort in the afternoon. However, she did not read too much into it and couldn't believe that would be true. She changed into the clothes and headed to Summer Sun International Hotel with her parents in advance. Summer Sun International Hotel was a property under the Shue family of Rivertown. When one spoke of the Shue family, the upper social circle often referred to them as Ancient Martial Arts Family, Shue family. They were ranked 5th in the ranking of ancient martial artist families in Rivertown. However, they would probably advance up the ranking by 1 or 2 as the old master of Shue family had recently achieved a breakthrough. As for Qin family, they were the commerce superpower in Rivertown. Qin family's ancient dynasty property, ancient dynasty logistics and ancient dynasty real estate, were all humongous organizations. The assets of Qin family were over $10 billion. Moreover, the background of Qin family was very, very strong. Currently, the old master of Qin family had a war comrade holding an important position in the government. The brother of Old Qin's wife was a very capable person in the capital of the province. Despite not being an ancient martial arts family, Qin family was still one of the strongest in existence within Rivertown. Even ancient martial arts families wouldn't dare to offend them. For the banquet hosted by Qin family tonight, 60% of the elites of Rivertown would be present. At 7. 3:30 p.m., a heavy-duty motorcycle arrived at Summer Sun International Hotel. There was a row of luxury cars lined up neatly in front of the entrance of the hotel. Wang Xian removed his helmet and smiled as he looked at the luxurious hotel in front of him. It seems that I have underestimated the Shui family. This construction costs of this hotel would at least be several hundreds of millions. Wang Xian looked around before walking in. The 7th story was where the Qin family would be hosting the banquet, and they had already booked the entire 7th story. Wang Xian walked out from the lift and headed to the main hall joyously. "Mister, please show us your invitation." When he arrived at the entrance, the 2 employees were looking at him with weird looks. "Invitation letter?" Wang Xian shrugged his shoulders and replied, "Qin Lianhui said it would be fine as long as I said I'm with him. You could give him a call to check." "Qin Lianhui? Director Qin?" The 2 employees were shocked. One of them took out a phone to verify after taking another look at Wang Xian. "Mr. Wang, this way please." After hanging up the phone, the employee spoke enthusiastically. Wang Xian nodded his head and headed in. "This is Qin family's banquet. Isn't this young man too casual with his dressing? If he could call our director Qin by his name, his background must not be ordinary." The 2 employees conversed softly as they saw Wang Xian off. "Dressing?" With Wang Xian's acute hearing, he could hear the conversation between the 2 of them clearly. He was shocked and quickly took a look at his attire. He was wearing casual attire from Versace and a pair of white casual shoes. "I do look pretty handsome. Perhaps my attire isn't really suitable for the occasion." At this moment, Wang Xian saw the group of people in the banquet hall who had arrived. The guys were all in suits and the girls were in evening gowns. Looking across, he understood the level of this banquet immediately. Most of the men had watches on their wrists. As for the ladies, they had all kinds of necklaces around their necks. "Damn it! This is my first time attending a banquet like this. I didn't know about these." Wang Xian truly didn't know. He hadn't given much thought about the banquet in the afternoon and headed over directly in his casual attire. "My attire currently isn't really fitting for the occasion here. Forget it. Since this was organized by old Qin, he will know that I'm not being disrespectful to him." Wang Xian shrugged his shoulders and didn't pay too much attention to it. He walked inside in a straight line. He hadn't had his dinner yet. Therefore, he chose to head to a corner to get some food. Isn't that shocking? When Wang Xian arrived at the corner, he was surprised to see a familiar figure. Guan Shuqing was sitting with a middle-aged man and a couple, and they were most probably her parents. Guan Shuqing was wearing a black evening gown tonight. She also had high heels on and exquisite makeup put up, making her look extremely alluring. Wang Xian walked over with smiles. "Shuqing, what a coincidence. You are here too." Guan Shuqing was slightly shocked when she saw Wang Xian after lifting her head. She was also surprised and asked, "Xiao Xiao, why are you here too?" Guan Shuqing stood up. Her parents, who were beside her, turned their heads around with doubts. They took a look at Wang Xian before looking at their daughter again. Immediately, they frowned. "Daughter, who is he?" Her father frowned and asked. To be dressed so casually in a formal setting, the first impression he had of Wang Xian was that this young man wasn't sensible. Chapter 57, A Storm in the Banquet, 2. "Uncle, Auntie." Wang Xian greeted Guan Shuqing's parents when they looked over at him. After all, they could be his future parents-in-law. "Her?" Guan Shuqing's father frowned. He acknowledged, and threw him a glance before he fixed his eyes on his daughter. "Dad, this is my classmate." Guan Shuqing hesitated. "Classmate?" Her father looked at Guan Shuqing and nodded. Wang Xian was a little stunned, as he could sense that his future father-in-law did not seem to like him. Helplessly, he looked at Guan Shuqing. "I'll sit over here." As he said, he took a seat at the sofa next to Guan Shuqing. "Dad, Mom, I'll chat with my classmate for a while," said Guan Shuqing to her parents as she nodded to Wang Xian. "Sit with us. We're bringing you to meet some people later on," said Guan Shuqing's father, frowning. Guan Shuqing knit her brow, sat down with them helplessly, and smiled to Wang Xian with bitterness. Wang Xian shook his head slightly and gave her a smile. "Shuqing, what kind of family does your classmate come from?" Guan Shuqing's mother looked at Wang Xian with doubts and asked her. "This classmate of mine," Guan Shuqing threw a glance at Wang Xian and answered with some pride, "is really awesome, Mom. He's the same age as me, but he already earns millions of dollars. Isn't he superb?" "Oh? Is that so? He's making millions at such a young age?" her mother said in surprise. Guan Shuqing's father was stunned too. He looked at his daughter and asked, "What kind of business is he doing?" Guan Shuqing chuckled, "Dad, Mom, let me tell you this. That's the best part of him. He only has a younger sister, but he relied on himself and became an entrepreneur. Don't you think he's awesome? No background?" Her father paused for a moment and frowned again. "Nope, he relies on his own effort when he is just as young as me." Guan Shuqing laughed while saying it. Her father shook his head slightly, no wonder he entered this place in casual wear. "I guess he followed someone here, but that person did not bring him to network with the rest of the people." Her father was disappointed. A young man who could earn millions was awesome indeed. But without any backings or background, his achievements would be limited. When he saw Wang Xian picking some food and beginning to eat alone, all the more he shook his head. Upon seeing the expression on her father's face, Guan Shuqing was unsure why. "Director Wu is here. Let's go, Shuqing." Her father took a glance at the hall and saw a familiar figure. He quickly got up and told them. Guan Shuqing followed behind reluctantly. "My future father-in-law seems to have a problem with me." When Wang Xian realized that Guan Shuqing's parents did not even look at himself, he picked up some fruit and started to feast on it. Then he fished out his phone and dialed for Shui Jing, asking her when she would be here as he was too bored. Piak! Suddenly, a loud slap was heard abruptly in the ballroom. Everyone was shocked, including Wang Xian. Wang Xian was toying with his phone when he turned around. Soon after, he stood up with a darkened expression. At the center of the ballroom, Guan Shuqing was covering her face with her head down while her father was standing there with a hideous look on his face. Next to them, a few middle-aged men stood there and watched impassively. His father walked over with a sullen face. "Director Wu, Director Gong, Master Bai, Director Song, I'm sorry. I didn't expect she would do such a thing. It was my lack of discipline. I'm sorry." Wang Xian came to the middle of the ballroom as he watched Guan Shuqing bowing down and apologizing in fear. "Do you think you can settle this with a slap? My son is lying in the hospital with broken limbs now." Chairman Wu glared at Guan Shuqing coldly. When he knew his son was sent to the hospital in the afternoon, he was shocked. He scrambled his way to the hospital where the doctor told him that the right arm and leg of his son were broken. It would take 3 to 4 months to recover. He raged when his son was immobilized. He learned from his son that everything happened because of Guan Shuqing and the boyfriend of hers. This made his blood boil. He immediately sent people to investigate the specific details and the culprit who beat his son up. Yet, Guan Shuqing had the cheek to greet him just now. If this was not the event of the Qin family, he might just make his move. The rest of the 3 middle-aged men were having the same sentiments as they stared coldly at Guan Shuqing. Guan Shuqing was fearful as he did not expect his daughter would have created such trouble. He trembled in his shoes. "Shuqing." Wang Xian walked over and called her name gently. As soon as he saw Guan Shuqing was holding her face, he stretched out his hand slowly and caressed her cheek. "Xiao Xian." A teardrop fell on his hand. Guan Shuqing lifted her chin with tears rolling in her eyes. "It's all right. I'm here." Wang Xian stroked her face as his heart ached for her. He used the dragon energy to moisturize her cheek. Who are you? Get out of my way. Guan Shicheng looked at Wang Xian first before he stared at Guan Shuqing with a trembling body. I raised you up. It's okay if you're not doing me a favor. Yet, you got into such trouble. I'm telling you, I don't have such a daughter like you. Wang Xian looked at Guan Shicheng and frowned. He then turned and gazed at the four middle-aged men. With a cold smile, he said, I was the one who beat up all your sons. What? Before the four middle-aged men could say anything, Guan Shicheng fixed his gaze deadly on Wang Xian. You were the one who beat up their sons? Yes, uncle. It was me, and it had nothing to do with Shuqing. Wang Xian looked at Guan Shicheng and nodded. Great, so it was you. You scoundrel, how dare you hit their sons? You're courting your own doom. Guan Shicheng pointed at Wang Xian with a hideous face. You are just a wild kid without your manners. Guan Shicheng continued as he looked at the four middle-aged men, Master Bai San, Director Wu, Director Gong, and Director Song. It was all his fault and it has nothing to do with me. On seeing Guan Shicheng pointing his finger at himself, Wang Xian knit his eyebrows tightly. Your daughter is involved in this matter, Master Bai San looked at Guan Shicheng and said coldly. He then turned to Wang Xian. How dare you beat up my son? You are really outrageous. You broke my son's arms and legs. Very well, I'll make sure you repay this tenfold. Director Wu was glaring at him angrily.